Good morning and welcome to the AM show. Across Ghana's 16 regions, we are broadcasting on the Joy News channel. Around the world on myjoyonline.com, on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125. My name is Sweetie Abochi.
My name is Benjamin Akako. Let's head into what you can expect from us this morning. The news in a bit, followed by the news review. Two academics join us. Dr. Kwame Asante, a political scientist and head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. We also have his student, Dr. Jabir Mohammed, and my colleague back then. He's a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Followed by sports, and Muftal Nabila Abdullahi will be on hand to share those with you. Then we get into our big story, Sweetie.
Yes. Now, the Ministry of Education denies a graphic reportage purporting to suggest an imminent cessation of the payment of teacher trainee allowances, saying it doesn't reflect the true position of the ministry. But what does it mean to scrap this allowance for an enhanced loan scheme? We know that it was part of President John Dramani Mahamat's campaign promises, but with the establishment of the Ministry of Youth and Development and Empowerment, many youth groups are optimistic about the development of youth policies and initiatives, and that is coming on AM Business, because we'll bring you an interview with Sharif Gali. He's Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs, to discuss the expectations of the youth.
Well, you want us to join us with your thoughts. So two-pronged issues, education and cancellation or not. And secondly, we're looking at that Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment and what it means in AM Business. Well, stick and stay with us, share your thoughts with us. Let's know what's on your mind. But for now, let's serve you the news up next.
This is the AM News on the Joy News channel on the AM show. Let's start now. The tone had shifted and the NPP had backtracked on its claim that the Speaker had acted unconstitutionally in the suspension of those four MPs. The Minority Leader, Alexander Penyumakin, now carried a more apologetic tone, accepting responsibility for the actions of the NPP MPs on the appointment committee that led to that chaos and violent confrontations on Thursday evening. He was backed by Majority Leader Mahama Ayariga, and Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin consequently lifted that suspension on the four members of Parliament, 3 on the minority side and 1 on the majority side, allowing them to resume their duties as MPs. Our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante now reports.
The NPP minority in Parliament came in this morning wearing red armbands, chanting and singing, ready to take the war to Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin, challenging his decision and the authority to take that matter up by suspending 4 MPs, 3 of them their colleagues. A number of them speaking to me, saying that they were ready to go right to the floor and vent their spleen.
This is a house that members are elected to come and represent their constituent. The decision of the Speaker is unfortunate. The decision of the Speaker is an illegal. He doesn't have that power. He has overreached his powers, and that is why you see us all in black to register our disappointment and our disapproval of that. It is a black day for our democracy if we allow this thing to stand.
When they come to the chamber, do they lock the doors? We don't want to believe that there's a partisan agenda going on. We are here to go into the chamber to continue with work. Sitting was adjourned till noon today. It's past noon. We're here. We've seen NDC members in the chamber. They've allowed them in, and they are not allowing us into the chamber.
But moments later, when the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, took the chair, it appeared their leader had softened the stance from penning a 5-page memo challenging the authority and the constitutionality of the decision of the Speaker. Alexander Penyumakin was now appealing to Alban Bagbin to rescind that decision.
We cannot take your power to discipline from you. But we believe that when this is tempered with assurance that the way forward will be better, you will be able to reinstate our colleagues who temporarily have been denied access to this chamber and the precincts of Parliament. Ours is not to undermine your authority. After all, it is the confidence we had in you that made us, by consensus, to vote you into office. And we accept your authority. Mr. Speaker, we do not think that we should litigate this matter, even on procedure.
His appeals were supported by the Majority Leader, Mahama Yariga.
The popular saying is that to err is human. To forgive is speakerly. I will support the appeal of my colleague, the Minority Leader, that you temper justice with mercy. I agree that your decision to suspend some colleagues was timely, and I believe that it has been understood by the generality of Ghanaians as a step that restored the image of this parliament.
After listening to the appeals on both sides, Speaker of Parliament asked if any MPs were not remorseful enough, they were free to get up on their feet.
Your leaders actually came to me to plead that I temper justice with mercy. If any of you here is not remorseful, please be on your feet.
No one did and be counted. The Speaker of Parliament consequently lifted the suspension of the 4 MPs.
We are in the transitional mood. We've not been able to put committees in place, including that of the Privileges and Immunities Committee. And the standing orders grant me the power and authority to do what I did. And clearly, the jurisprudence are very clear that when contempt is committed in facie curia, you don't proceed to set up another committee or court or whatever to investigate and submit a report. And so I referred to the one in Parliament. My very good honorable member, you are at liberty, even after this, to proceed anywhere. I have no problem meeting you in court. So I have lifted the suspension order, and I do so instantly, and it takes effect immediately.
Alban Bagwin also condemned the New Patriotic Party MPs for attacking the clerk of the appointment committee.
The clerk to the appointments committee is a public servant and should not be dragged into the failure of the members of the committee to resolve their differences. This clerk has worked with us for 19 good years. And she is one of the best clerks that we have had.
This matter has seemingly been put to rest because effective immediately, the 4 MPs, 3 on the minority side, 1 on the majority side, can come to Parliament and do their work. But the committee set up to investigate the chaos at the appointment committee chaired by Emmanuel Kwesi will continue to do their work and present a report to Parliament for a final determination. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
The Teacher Training Association of Ghana, that is TTAG, is rejecting the government's decision to transition teacher training allowances into a student loan scheme. Minister of Education Haruna Idrisu, during an engagement with the leadership of the Conference of Principals of Colleges of Education, announced that government plans to transition the allowance to an enhanced student loan scheme to allow students to cater for their own feeding and personal expenses. Yes, more.
But more importantly, you raise the issue of student allowances. It will continue. Subsequent to the Education Forum, for which I have the pleasure to invite you to come, we'll take some major decisions based on the recommendations. But off-head, there is no way you should be feeding a student at the tertiary level off-head. So we have to work out a transition from the allowance into an enhanced student loan for them to feed themselves. But in the interim, they will still get the allowances. Then just the next very few months going forward, subject to the recommendations of the committee. But I cannot conceive of a student in a higher education institution being fed. We can narrow feeding to basic and to free senior high school, but at the tertiary level, so they will still get enhanced student loans to be able to feed themselves. But in the interim, we will continue with the feeding and then phase out the allowance process, subject to the recommendations of the Education Forum. So we would do that.
Pressure is mounting on the West Africa Examination Council to release the withheld WASSCE results of over 10,000 students as the National Union of Ghana Students gives WAEC 1 week ultimatum. WAEC has filed a stay of execution at the High Court pending an appeal against an order by the court directing the release of the withheld results. Now, during a press briefing, President of NUGS, Daniel Kole-Botwe, emphasized that should WAEC fail to release the results within the given time, they will drag the examination body to court and also face a series of protests.
That all withheld results must be released within 1 week to allow students to meet university admission deadlines. The reversal of cancellation of entire results. Cancellation should be limited to only particular subject results that the malpractice took place. A fair hearing for all accused candidates before any disciplinary action is taken. An end to the unfair practice of cancelling entire results for infractions related to single subject results. An establishment of a transparent and accessible appeal process for students who wish to challenge WAEC's decisions. A commitment to releasing completed results instead of withholding some under questionable circumstances which disadvantage students. Our next course of action. If WAEC fails to meet our demands within the given timeframes, NUGS will mobilize all Ghanaian students for a nationwide protest to press home our demands. In conclusion, education is a fundamental right, and WAEC must uphold justice, transparency, and accountability. The credibility of WAEC is at stake if students and the general public lose confidence in its fairness. We demand immediate reforms and to address these injustices. If WAEC fails to act, NUGS will escalate the matter through legal and advocacy channels, including seeking judicial intervention.
For the first time, the Ghana Health Service has admitted it does not have complete data on all cancer cases in the country. As the world marks World Cancer Day, the service is using the occasion to raise awareness and strengthen efforts against the disease. Cancer remains a major public health concern, particularly in low and middle income countries like Ghana, where thousands of new cases and deaths are recorded each year. In response, the Ghana Health Service has announced plans to create a comprehensive national cancer register to track the cases more effectively. There's more in this report.
The 2025 World Cancer Day celebration in Ghana, themed United in Unique, shines a spotlight on cancer survivors, their resilience, struggles, and victories. A health practitioner and cancer survivor, Hannah Tete, shares a journey of overcoming neglect and financial barriers in accessing treatment.
I have to consider to do it because I couldn't bear again with the pain. So 2024, early January, I have to consider doing it. And by January 2024, last year, I made the deposit. I came to do the biopsy at Zurich. The results came, and I have to go and do a second. When Dr. Kaba called me in his office and told me, Hannah, you have to do a second surgery. I was still healing from the first surgery I did. Within 2 weeks, I have to go and do, you have to repeat your surgery again. I didn't know what to do. Whether I should cry or should keep quiet, I don't know. Because I was the wound of my scar is still there.
This year's campaign seeks to raise awareness, promote prevention, encourage early detection, and break the stigma surrounding cancer. Acting Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Professor Samuel Kaba Akarie, emphasized that over 70% of cancer deaths occur in low and middle income countries, including Ghana. This year's focus highlights cancer affecting men, an often overlooked area in cancer awareness campaigns.
We realize that in Ghana we don't have a cancer registry. And that is something I've already promised someone, one of the oncologists. She will be landing on Monday. We are going to work on it to have a cancer registry. What we have is pocket of things. Global estimates show that in 2022, there were an estimated 20 million new cancer cases with associated 9.7 million deaths. About 1 in 5 people develop cancer in their lifetime. In Ghana, the estimated number of new cancer cases in 2022 was 27,385, with 17,944 deaths, with an estimated 63,764 persons having survived cancer in Ghana. This year, Ghana Health Service is shining the limelight on cancers which occur in males, prostate and liver. Although these cancers are among the leading causes of death in Ghana, they are unfortunately not highlighted enough. Our country estimates for this leading cancer in 2022 were as follows. Prostate cancer, 2,395 cases with 1,233 deaths, 52% of mortality. That's quite high. Liver cancer, 2,656 cases in men with 2,390 deaths. That was 90% mortality. Over 70% of cancer deaths occur in low and middle income countries such as Ghana.
The Ghana Health Service is taking concrete steps towards a national cancer strategy, recognizing that prevention remains the most effective way to combat cancer. Jennifer August reporting for Joy News.
Away from that, the Ashanti region witnessed a significant surge in cancer cases in 2024, recording 33.6% increase from the previous year. Breast cancer cases escalated dramatically by 92.12%, while cervical cancer showed a substantial increase of 75.17%. In contrast, prostate cancer cases decreased by 17.55% during the same period. Now, the Regional Health Directorate is attributing the alarming records to late diagnosis, poor outcomes, and premature mortality. Clinton Yeboah reports.
The Ashanti Regional Health Directorate is unpacking the cancer phenomenon in the region, which has seen an upward trend since 2022. The Directorate disclosed challenges such as low awareness, limited capacity, and availability of screening services are responsible for the recent surges in cancer cases. Cancer cases in 2024 stood at 18,104 from 13,551 in 2023, representing an increase of 4,553 or 33.6% increment. With 269 new breast cancer cases in 2024, the total cases stood at 561, an increase from 292 in 2023. Cervical cancer cases shot up to 522 from 298 in 2023. Although prostate cancer cases reduced by 212 cases from 1,208 in 2023 to 996 in 2024, all other cancers saw the highest rise. Ashanti Regional Director of Health Service, Dr. Fred Adomako-Boateng, says solutions to cancer treatment should be a personal concern.
But moving on, some breast cancer survivors are alluding to societal stigmatization as a major contributory factor to the rate of mortality among cancer patients. Another the Breast Care International Survivors Association, that is the name of the group, they are advocating for acceptance, and there's more in this report.
Touch Black Breast Cancer Alliance, together with Peace and Love Hospital, has commemorated World Cancer Day to create awareness of breast cancer. At the celebration, the Breast Cancer International Survivors Association spoke against stigmatization of cancer patients. President of the association, Vivian J.C. Safo, urged the women to visit the hospital for regular checkup.
The stigma surrounding breast cancer is enough, so society should see breast cancer as any other disease, and we all should try and help to erase the stigma surrounding the disease. The stigma is putting women out there not to come to the hospital.
President of Breast Care International, Dr. Beatrice Wiafe Ade, says about 5,000 women were diagnosed with breast cancer last year.
Last year we had more than 5,000 people diagnosed and more than 2,300 died. This year we are expecting to get more than that because the global figure is on the rise. So we also expect to have a higher figure. But we want to reduce the deaths. We want to reduce the number of women dying from breast cancer drastically by doing the right things, by doing the research, by finding the right drugs. Now they are doing targeted treatment. We want to be part of it.
CEO of Touch Black Breast Cancer Alliances, Ricky Fairley, encouraged the women to frequently visit the hospital.
Your life is so much more important. You have to figure out what's going to save you. We have to take care of our children. We have to get over the stigma. There is no stigma. You know, it's just an organ. If you had a headache, you would take a pill. There's no difference, right? So, but this could kill you. You have to save your life. Do whatever you have to do to save your life.
Reporting for Joy News, Josephine Sego.
Barely 2 weeks after the violent clash in the mining town of Obuasi, it remains unclear the stage of the government's announced probe into the incident. President Mahama ordered an immediate investigation to uncover the circumstances surrounding the incident, but progress on the process remains unclear to the public. We have more in this News Desk report by Emmanuel Bright-Kweku.
9 persons died and several others were injured in the clash between some illegal miners and the military in Obuasi on January 18. A day after the violent clash, the president ordered an immediate investigation, assuring the public that anyone found to have acted unlawfully would face justice. Portions of the statement read:
In response to the unfortunate incident, President John Dramani Mahama has ordered an immediate investigation to determine the circumstances surrounding the clashes and ensure that any individuals found to have acted unlawfully are brought to justice.
Ashanti Regional Minister Dr. Frank Amwakohene, during a visit to the Obuasi community, also assured of the President's commitment to ascertaining circumstances leading to the loss of lives and other severe injuries.
The President has ordered an investigation in the process, so we want to carry everyone along. By the time the matter is brought to a very meaningful conclusion, we still have to find a way to work in tandem with each other and make sure that everyone goes about their businesses pending the report of the investigation.
There is relative calm in Obuasi Township as schools and other socio-economic activities have resumed. However, people are still in limbo on the President's promised investigation into the incident. Joy News checks indicate no public communication yet on the constitution of a committee or commission of inquiry. Families of the deceased are in anticipation of thorough investigation as they demand justice for the lost lives. My son's death can't be normal. I suspect someone commanded them to kill my son. We must know who ordered the commander to open fire. We want the government to bring finality to the matter so we know the truth in there. The concerned citizens of Adanse, a community-based advocacy group, is urging the fair and transparent conduct of investigations to serve justice. Anthony Kofi Nature, president of the group, wants immediate government support, including compensation to affected families.
We are very much aware that the government has issued a statement suggesting that Anglo-Gold Ashanti should take charge of the bills and the barrier and all sort of things of the affected. We also think that government also has a responsibility of taking some of these bills to make sure that people are satisfied with the sort of compensations that will be given to their families.
Families and residents in Obuasi are eagerly anticipating immediate investigations to find lasting solutions. For Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Bratsquiku.
That takes us to the business segment on the AM News with Benjamin Nakakbo.
Let's head into our stories now. And the first Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afari, has proceeded on leave ahead of his retirement. A letter from the Bank of Ghana said Dr. Opoku-Afari decided to proceed on leave from February the 5th prior to the end of his contract and has received approval from President John Mahama. There's more in this report.
The Bank of Ghana, in a statement, announced that this has received the approval of President John Mahama. This will now mean that it will be left with Johnson Esiama, who was recently nominated by President John Mahama as Governor of the Bank of Ghana. Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afari was appointed in August 7, 2017 for his first four-year term as First Deputy Governor and reappointed for second term on August 7, 2021. He had been playing a major supporting role to the Governor of the Bank of Ghana when it comes to some reforms embarked upon by the central bank in recent times.
In our next story, the Associate Director for Financial Advisory at Deloitte Ghana, Ni Asafwache Abe, has emphasized the need for structured procurement processes to prevent fraud and ensure value for money in business transactions. He highlighted the importance of independent oversight, multiple quotations, and thorough evaluation before purchases are made. Now, speaking on the Joy Business Advisory series, he stressed that separating procurement roles within an organization minimized risks and enhanced transparency in business operations.
When it comes to buying things, and I'm going to use that context in the context of a business, so you're buying things, you know your business needs this particular item.
Yes.
You shouldn't just allow anyone to buy it. There should be a process. So whoever needs it would say that I need this for this thing. Probably it will be sent to the person's boss to confirm whether they really need that. Then it's sent to someone independent of the people who are going to use it to go procure it for them. So this person is not going to use the thing, is not going to directly benefit from that item. And typically, depending on the value, you probably go for, say, 3 quotations from the market. Then you have a panel to sit down, depending on the value, of course. I mean, you can escalate this as so they would evaluate the item and say that, okay, yeah, this thing gives us value for money, let's buy it. If it comes in, the people who are going to use also inspect it. This is what we asked for. And then it comes. So if you follow this process where you separate the people who do all these various steps, it helps to prevent such procurement fraud, I would like to call it that way, from really affecting you as a business.
For how much are the major commodities trading? Let's find out on our commodities exchange. Well, that's it for the business updates, and handing the baton back to Sweetie Abochi.
Thank you, Ben, for serving us business updates. Now, guess who's joining us for News Review? Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, and he's head Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, as well as Dr. Jibril Mohammed, senior lecturer, University of Ghana Business School. But that's it for the AM News Bulletin on the AM show. Please stay. News Review comes up next, but for now, off we pop. You're live on the News Review segment on the AM show. Ben and I are here to steer the conversations. Let me usher in our guest this morning. We'll be speaking to Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He's head Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. And we'll also be speaking with Dr. Jibril Mohammed, senior lecturer, University of Ghana Business School. They both join us via Zoom. Doctors, good morning. Do I have Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante first?
Good morning, Sweetie. You have me online. And good morning to Ben. And then my friend Jibril.
Fantastic.
Of course. Good morning to our viewers and listeners.
Great.
Doc, good morning. Jabir, how are you today?
I'm fine. Good morning to you and good morning to all your listeners.
Great. Like we usually do, we'll give you some time to share your thoughts with us on something that has come up that is of interest to you. At this time, we'll start with you, Dr. Jabir Mohammed.
Thank you, Bernard. This morning, I'll go back again to the Bank of Ghana. We have just had a new governor of the Bank of Ghana in the person of Dr. Siama. And I believe that the Bank of Ghana has a lot to do because you recall that the Bank of Ghana had about 60 billion loss 2 years ago and also about 10 billion loss last year, which means that there is a Herculean task for the Bank of Ghana to be able to cover up. But I also believe that right now that the first deputy governor has also resigned, it means that the president has the opportunity to appoint a new person into the role, which means that the Bank of Ghana is getting set for a good work to be done. Also, I want to take us back to inflation. Inflation has dropped by at least 0.8%. But however, food prices are still high, which means that it is about 10% higher than 6 months ago. What that means is that you and I, our life is worse off by 10% when it comes to purchasing food. So this is something that the Bank of Ghana will have to work very hard to be able to put into track.
I see interesting thoughts you shared there. Of course, voluntarily, those two gentlemen have put forward their leave requests ahead of retirement. Dr. Hassan Asante, what are your thoughts for us this morning?
I will look at what we have listened to and watched with disquiet. That is the disturbances in Parliament relative to the vetting. I'm sure all of us are alive to this. We saw that, and that is not the best. It brings to sharp focus certain things that we need if we want to go on very well as a state, and particularly so when we're dealing with the institution that is responsible for lawmaking. We need a structure that will help in the interview of nominees, and that structure should have a bio that will spell out a little background of you, and then which include your experience and any other thing worth knowing. But what is more important in that structure is that we need duration, that the interview will last. Because if you look at the issue more detail, you realize that minority were saying they were tired and all that. That means that that consideration must be brought to bear if you want to have a structure that will stand the test of time. And let me also inform members of Parliament that they are honorable and they must carry themselves as such, that the game in Parliament is nothing but ideas supported by consensus. Fisticuffs, blows do not have any place in a democracy. Every democracy worth its salt is driven by ideas and consensus. And out of this, decisions are reached. Any other thing is nothing but an aberration, a misnomer, which we don't want. We want them to know that they have come to the end regarding disturbances in Parliament. If there is something that they do not share and believe in, strategies are bound and they can adopt any of them, including walkouts. Those fisticuffs are not part of any democratic enterprise.
Well, thank you very much for your thoughts, Dr. Kwame Asante. We'll get into the papers now.
Yes, let me start with the news center. Bank of Ghana First Deputy Governor proceeds on leave, like you just mentioned, Dr. Jibril, and that is ahead of his term. But there's a story related to that. It says minority leader challenges new Bank of Ghana governor's assumption of office, and I'll get to it in a bit. And then there's Mahama betrays teacher trainees. Vote for allowance campaign turns to allowance cancellation. There's a statement actually on that, and they say they're not actually cancelling it right away. They want to keep it for a while until they've structured the student loan, enhanced student loan system. Backbin lifts suspension on 4 MPs. Yesterday, we all witnessed that, and court overturns arrest warrant against Karen Baba Sam. So 2 main stories here. Mahama betrays teacher trainees allowance. In a shocking turn of events, the newly elected John Dramani Mahama government has announced its intention to cancel teacher trainee allowances, a move that has left thousands of students in colleges of education feeling deceived and betrayed. But it says that prior to the NDC 2024 election, the NDC made 6 pledges under its education manifesto. And one of these promises was provide trainee allowances, student loans, and other diverse funding options for teacher and training allowances. And I think that's the same thing that the ministry is trying to explain. They are not cancelling it outrightly. They're trying to enhance the student loan system so that students can depend on themselves for feeding and other things. And then the story about the minority challenging the new Bank of Ghana governor's assumption of office. Photo of minority leader is there, but let me get to the story now. The minority in Parliament has raised concerns over Dr. Johnson Isiame's assumption of official duties as governor of the Bank of Ghana, citing constitutional concerns. The President John Dramani Mahama nominated him on 31st January, pending approval by the Council of State. And that's the argument that they are making, that he should wait for his appointment or nomination be approved by the Council of State before he assumes office. These 2 main stories, gentlemen. Let me start with you, Dr. Kwame Asante.
Yeah, I will start with the teachers training allowance and matters arising. Allowance is good. They enhance work and then improve the quality of work people do. But you always want to find out whether they are sustainable. How long can the paying authority continue to pay? So I believe that the way forward, so this is what the ministry is announcing, that they want to look at it and then take a decision on that. I will urge them to make it a stakeholder meeting so that we move towards what? Loan scheme. Allowance be converted to loan. It's not a bad idea. All of us took Senate loan, and when we finish school, we paid back. That's the spirit, so that others will also have the opportunity to also access the same funding. So I believe that the way forward and the long-term program towards this is what? The student loan scheme. Once they get that, it's going to serve the same purpose, but at the end of the day, you give back, as opposed to allowance that when it's given to you, you don't give back. So if we want to ensure prudence for money, one of the surest way is this. With the governor's and his deputy and the rest, the deputy governor's story, I must say that it's a bit too technical for me.
Okay.
I don't know what it entails, because you hear the argument, they said that you need Council of State to approve and all that. As far as I'm concerned, the Council of State's tenure has not expired. I don't know. If they are still in office, they can still be consulted and then approve this. Okay. But other than that, I think I'll rest my case and see as things unfold, and we'll look at all the nuances. Right.
Doug, any quick comments on the lifting of that suspension on the 4 MPs? Briefly, and then I'll go to
Yes. I almost forgot.
Yeah.
I believe that the Speaker has done the right thing by putting his foot down. For me, it doesn't come to me as a surprise, because as somebody who was once a reporter in Parliament, we all work under the Speaker, and we know who he was and today who he is. I have no doubt in my mind that he has not changed a bit. He's very firm and strong. What I read from his action was that he has just given them first yellow card. The next yellow card will be converted to red, and that be a different story. I believe that leadership in Parliament, both ways, will look at the issue and address it head on, and then inculcate in their people that there is no place in democracy where blows and destruction of property are allowed. If they go on that route, the next time they will have a red card. And that means that they will have severe sanctions, and then people like us will call for severe sanctions for them, because what they have done twice in terms of these disturbances. The first one was 2020 after the I think leading to the swearing in of the election of the Speaker back when first term, and then this one. You are just, telling us that you are not organized. But I know Parliament as an institution, well organized and well respected. All these things bring a dent on the image of Parliament, and they should be worried about this. Okay. Any other action that will bring shame to Parliament, they must be ready to face sanction, and any property destroyed, they pay for it, so that it will serve as deterrent to other people. But they should go home and turn new leaf, as the Speaker has given them this leeway.
Right. Thank you so much. And Dr. Mohammed, I'm curious to know what the technicalities are in terms of the assumption of office for the new nominated governor for the Bank of Ghana. Does this argument hold that he should wait for the Council of State to approve his nomination?
Well, I believe that there is work to be done. And that is how come that he quickly assumed office. Right now, the governor is gone. The second deputy governor is gone. Is there any acting person on his behalf if he's not assuming office.
I think Dr. Addison leaves on March 31st or so. He hasn't left yet, but he's notified the president of his intention to take a leave. So
yes,
he's still in office.
Yes, he took the leave on the 3rd, exactly on the 3rd. So as he takes a leave, there is nobody to act in that capacity. So if the new governor has been appointed, I don't see anything wrong with he going to take over the position until the Council of State approves him. After all, there are other positions that have already assumed office, waiting for the Council of State to be constituted and what do you call it, and approve them. So he's still in the acting position. So until the governor, the Council of State is in place, so that he will properly be approved for him to take over the place. So I don't think anything is really wrong with that as a person. And on the issue of the teacher trainee allowance, it's been said and argued in relentlessly that teacher trainee allowance in the past, there has been a lot of political debate on it. But I believe that there is supposed to be a position of equity, a position of access, and a position of resources. So if the government sees that it doesn't have the needed resources to continue the exercise, so I believe that we can put a stop to it. But I also believe that now we have about 4 years. Usually it used to be just 2 years. Now they have about 4 years to be in school. And if the numbers increase and are now 4 years, it's going to be extremely difficult for the government to be able to cater for all of that. So I fervently believe that we have to really look at that particular exercise. And also, if you remove the trainee allowance, you are going to create a room for more access. So we can have more people entering into the training college. So you are not able to restrict access if you remove the trainee allowance. So I just believe that we have to do something really concrete so that it can benefit the entire citizenry. And lastly, we have an educational conference coming up. Some of these things can be put in place and better discussion can be done on that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, lastly, on the parliamentary issue, the Speaker has taken his position and he suspended them. Now he's asking them to come back. What that means is that there is still a committee in place that is supposed to come out with an investigation. We are still not losing sight of that committee's report. So the committee can still come out with their investigation and the appropriate sanctions can be applied to them. Nobody is above the law. And I believe that the chaos or the misbehavior should not be tolerated anymore.
Thank you so much. And that will do it for the News Center. Ben, should we do your paper?
Let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper now. Development Bank Ghana welcomes Dr. Randolph Nso Ambala as CEO. There's Education Ministry denies story, but Graphic stands by report, and that's, of course, being reported by the Daily Graphic. Prostate, liver cancers among leading causes of death in Ghana. So prostate and liver cancers. 155 contest Council of State slots today. Interesting as we bring them into the fray in respect of the Bank of Ghana situation. Speaker reverses suspension of 4 MPs. When you go to the back page, WAPCO shuts down gas transmission today, and Kolebu suspends mortuary services for refurbishment. So, in case you didn't know, let me start from the back page. The Kolebu Teaching Hospital has temporarily suspended accepting fresh dead bodies and brought-in dead, that is BID cases, to allow for a 6-week refurbishment of its mortuary facilities. The hospital urged bereaved families whose deceased relatives had been in the mortuary for 3 to 6 weeks to make immediate arrangements for burial or transfer them to alternative facilities. The refurbishment of the 600-capacity cold room is aimed at enhancing service delivery at the facility, which means that if any hospital facility refers you there within this period, you should take note that you probably have to seek other options. But the facilities, I'm sure, will be aware. WAPCO shuts down gas transmission today, and the West African Gas Pipeline Company, the operator of the West African Gas Pipeline, will shut down the pipeline for routine maintenance from today. This will enable the company to launch its pipeline inspection gauge to inspect and clean the 569-kilometer stretch of pipeline as required by regulation. In terms of alternative fuel, the last time the company was to have shut down was January the 20th this year, during which the state did not have enough fuel reserves for power generation. However, daily graphic checks revealed that the government had secured enough alternative fuel supply to fill in any shortfall. And the General Manager Operations and Maintenance of WAPCO, Awal Ibrahim, said the company remained committed to maintaining the proactive stakeholder engagement and more. Let me wrap for now with this story, and then I'll come to you, gentlemen. A total of 155 personalities from the 16 regions in the country have filed their nominations to contest slots in the Council of State election on Tuesday, February the 11th. The list compiled by the Daily Graphic indicates that by the close of nominations last Friday, 145 males and 10 females, that's quite a disparity, had submitted their nomination forms to contest the single slot reserved for each of the 16 regions. The election of Council of State members is not open to public voting, but through an electoral college made up of 2 representatives nominated by each district assembly. And just to add on, the Greater Accra Regional Director of the EC, Gladys Pinkra, told the Daily Graphic that 13 persons filed to contest the region's single slot on the Council of State. So 13 candidates for a single slot in the Greater Accra region. Your thoughts on these matters? Let me start with you, Dr. Asante.
Ben, I'll start with the Council of State. I have always said, and I'll repeat it here, that this is a body made up of people who have seen it all. In other words, experienced people, people with all the skills that we need if we want to look at their qualities. So I have always said that if this body serves as an advisory body to government, and they have all the qualities that we want, why do we still keep them as a Council of State instead of pushing them into a second chamber and then making sure that we expand their frontiers, and then they also give us the best of what advice? Because if you look at the quality of people in there, former IGP, former CDS, former Chief Justice and all, for me, this is like the House of Lords in the UK. So why can't we turn them around and then have a second chamber? And that will really help. That is my view about it. Those who are interested in contesting, we wish them the best. The best will be selected, and then they will come and support us. But going forward, I think that that conversation should occupy our minds, and one day we should bring it to the fore for discussion. WAPCO shutdown and the maintenance program, a good thing. I will urge the new government to find ways of making money so that the repairs will not be postponed from time to time. No, we have to do it on schedule to avoid all the difficulties associated with such exercises. So I will urge the new government to look for resources so that at all material time, when there is a need for repairs, they repair, whilst we also have power. I am happy to hear from the minister this morning that, yes, this repairs will go on, but the light will be on. That is what we want. And they should find a way out to maintain this at all times. The issue about prostate and liver cancer affecting lives.
I will get into that story, and maybe when I do with the details, then we can get in there. But just a quick follow-up. You do realize, remember, that this planned maintenance should have happened. I believe this is what should have happened in October, which was pushed to January.
Yes.
And of course, that creates issues. But like you said, the issues must be dealt with. Simple.
Yes. Prostate and liver cancer. It's a worrying development in the sense that this country, we are now seeing a lot of cancer cases, and it tells us that there's something wrong that we need to fix. And every time our health experts continue to advise us as to what to do to avoid some of these things, we as a society must double our effort to make sure that we undertake a lot of screening and then make sure that we get our health check done at all times so as to save ourselves as a society. It is an important exercise that it must occupy our attention. The last story is about the Kolibu and the mortuary and the repairs that is going on. It's good. Maintenance culture is something that is in deficit in this country. So if we have found time to undertake such exercise, kudos, but it must be sustained so that it will not be a night, just a one-off thing. It should come on at all times.
Dr. Jabir, your quick thoughts on this. I'll get to the prostate issue. I've not read the facts and figures, but you go ahead with your thoughts and I'll get back to that.
Yeah, on the issue of the WAPO closing of the gas pipeline for maintenance, I believe that it's a step in the right direction. And as the minister has assured that the lights are going to be on, we must at all times ensure that the light is on. That is what Ghanaians are looking for. So if that means that we have to look onto the independent power producers to be able to provide us with the needed power gap in terms of the closure of the gas pipeline, we have to do so that our lights are on. For Korle Bu, in terms of the maintenance, that is very good, as said by Dr. Shashanti. But I believe that we have to provide alternatives. What is the alternative for people who want to send their bodies to the place? Is there any other place that we can relocate them to in place of the maintenance? And also, I don't think they need just one mortuary. They need more than one, so that anytime we have some of these problems, they can have space for people who pass on to be able to store for some time. Lastly, on the prostate cancer and kidney disease, I believe that the water we drink or the pollution of our water bodies will be one of the key concerns to some of these problems. But with the prostate cancer, that one there, it is main problem. And I believe that routine checkups can help to maintain this kind of position for us. So I think that's what I have.
All right. Let me just quickly get to that one before I do the DBG story. So prostate liver cancer is among leading causes of death in Ghana. The Ghana Health Service has said that prostate and liver cancers are among the leading causes of death in the country. In 2022, a total of 2,395 cases of prostate cancer were recorded in the country, with 1,233 deaths. Look at that. 2,395 cases, 1,233 deaths. That's about, it's more than half the figure, representing 52% mortality, while liver cancer affected a total of 2,656 men in 2022, with 2,390 deaths, representing 90% mortality. That's why I wanted to read the story so we get a full picture. Now, also, an estimated number of all new cancer cases recorded in 2022 was 27,385, with 17,944 deaths, while about 63,764 persons survived the disease in the country. The Ghana Health Service has therefore stressed the need for people to get tested for the conditions at least once a year so that cases would be picked up early for treatment. And this was while marking World Cancer Day on the theme United in Unique. So when was the last time you checked your prostate? And sometimes you even have to go further, not just the PSA. I usually check around my birthday so that I stay on. When was the last time you checked? And nowadays there's a lot of, because of the things we consume and the lack of exercise, fatty liver disease and all of that. If you don't get checked, by the time you find out, it may be too late. There's also page 13, I believe. Let me just, was it 13 or 11? The DBG story, the Development Bank of Ghana. Is it? Let me just get to it very quickly. Yes, there it is. So Development Bank Ghana has announced the appointment of a development finance professional, Dr. Randolph Nso Ambala, as the new chief executive of the bank, effective January 21 this year. I believe it's the same bank that some women have said John Mahama should turn into a women's bank or a women's development bank. I don't know what especially Dr. Jabir Mohammed would think about that. But let me start with you, Doc, now that you have the facts and the figures. Just quick thoughts, and we'll get into other papers.
Yes, I think about the cancer story. We need as a society declare war on cancer and then marshal all the resources to fight it head on. because it's taking a lot of lives. If you look at the figures, they are so, mind-blowing. We need to fix this now. We should bring all our arsenals on it and fight it head on. The education on cancer, the advocacy must continue unabated.
All right. Dr. Mohammed?
Yeah, well, if you look at the current government manifesto, they have said that they are going to make provision for issues of kidney disease, etc. So it's going to be a main stable. I believe that it is time for them to walk the talk, just rather than just giving a manifesto promises. We have to put things in place to be able to fix this particular position. Health is very important. All of us can be affected. Just look at the scary numbers. Over 90-something% died. Over 50-something% also died, which means that this is really a very, very big issue. And it's a national disaster that we have to be able to resolve. So Ministry of Health, Public Health have to intensify their education, and that can help to calm down some of these situations. I believe that if the government also if the government is able to fulfill that campaign promise, it's going a long way to support the people of Ghana, because it's very expensive to treat some of these diseases. So if there are no resources in place to be able to treat it, then it's going to be difficult for the people. They'll continue to die because they don't have the money to be able to do dialysis and all sort of things.
Right.
That has to do with that. Now, regarding the Development Bank of Ghana, well, the present promise of a Women Development Bank, which is different from the Bank of Ghana. These two, Development Bank of Ghana, these two banks have different missions to accomplish. So I don't think that the development is an easy way to move, to say that someone has set up a bank and you come to use your campaign promise to change the name to Women Development Bank. It doesn't make sense. Of course, they can make a unit of it as component of it, but they said that they wanted to set up a Women Development Bank. So let's look up to them, let them fulfill their promise, and we'll see what can happen for the good people of Ghana, especially our women, because access to financing is very critical to ensure that they have a stable business so that they can run to feed their families and make their life better.
Well, let's get into other papers.
Gentlemen, I cannot tell you how deep this conversation on cancer is sitting in my spirit this morning.
52% mortality rate for prostate cancer, 90% for liver-related cancers. That is staggering.
Yeah, I'm saying that because I lost my dad to cancer. So there was a period in my life where I would read everything I could find on cancer.
I mean.
Yeah, so this initiative, getting people tested once a year, if it really sees the light of day, I think we can save more lives than we lose to cancer. Let's get into the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Tripartite Committee begins 2025 salary negotiations. Government urges partners to work expeditiously. Government reviews gold for oil policy to promote transparency, according to the Energy Minister. Of course, the story about Speaker lifting suspension on foreign peace here. Presbyterian Church eulogizes J.B. Dankwa. I want to start from the second to last page because it carries an interesting story. Ex-Labour minister, second suspect granted bail. Third suspect remanded in police custody. And the owner and bankroller of Ghana Premier League side in Swatreman FC, Ignatius Bafwewa, and the second suspect, Joseph Chireme, have been granted bail in connection with the violent disturbances that occurred during a league match between Asante Kotoko and Nswatreman on Sunday at Nswatre in the Bono region. So just an update on that story. Two of those suspects, that is the ex-Labour minister and the second suspect, have been granted bail. The third person is still in police custody. That story, let me just add two more. On the Tripartite Committee beginning the salary negotiations, government urging partners to work expeditiously. It says the National Tripartite Committee began negotiations to determine the minimum wage and base pay for the 2025 fiscal year. Let me just jump to this point where it says The statement called on the social partners, that is government, employers, organized labor, to work expeditiously to complete the negotiation in time to inform the 2025 budget. Mind you, the minimum wage, which was increased from 14 Ghana cedis, 88 pesos in 2023, was upgraded to 18 Ghana cedis, 15 pesos in 2025, which in my view, I still think is so small. But let's see what the committee comes up with. One last story. Government reviews gold for oil policy to promote transparency. The government, in reviewing the gold for oil policy, is reviewing the gold for oil policy, I think, to help serve the needs of players in the downstream petroleum sector and promote transparency to the implementation of the program. That is the Minister for Energy, John Abdullahi Dinapo, has said. And he indicated that the Ministry of Finance had started the process to review the gold aspect of the gold for oil policy through the establishment of the Ghana Gold Board. Gentlemen, these stories for your reflections. I'll start with you, Dr. Mohammed.
I'll start with the last story, the gold for oil. This is something that the government put in place so that we can stabilize our currency. And that is the most important aspect of it. But strangely enough, if you look at Ghana, we are an oil-producing country. Why is it that we are not able to refine our oil so that we can use that to be able to solve our needs? Because the consumption of oil is something that you cannot do without. Every household consumes oil. If you don't use a vehicle, definitely you pick a vehicle to your workplace. So we have to work on TOR so that we can put TOR in place to be able to deal with some of these situations. We cannot always continue to gamble. Gold for oil is a derivative instrument that we wanted to employ so that we can exchange oil for gold. That is basically that. But to the extent that it's not properly working, it means that we have to relook at it and ensure that we are able to refine our own oil in the country, what we can consume in the country. And that can even help to stabilize our currency because we don't need to actually use foreign exchange again to buy oil. If we can pick component of the oil that we produce in Ghana to be able to refine for our own internal use. Now, to the tripartite committee, 18 Ghana cedi is relatively small. If you look at even food inflation, that grew up by 10% in the last 6 months, which means that if it goes up by 10%, you have lost already 10% of your daily wage for food only. So what are you going to say for your future? So I believe that the tripartite committee should review and get us a better wage. But I also believe that in as much as we are asking for a higher wage, we should also step up our productivity. If you increase your productivity, it's going to lead to a growth in the economy. And if the economy expands, definitely your income is going to expand. So I believe that we need to put better mechanisms in place to up our game. What are employers looking for? Employers should be able to set up the models of planning or the goal that they want them to achieve so that at the end of the day, when they achieve that, it's going a long way to help to increase our GDP. And largely, employment will even increase if our GDP goes up. Theoretically, some of these things have been proven. So I believe that we get to do more about that.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. Dr. Gomez Asante.
Yeah. Every time we look at salary negotiations and then figures come out as basic pay, are they realistic? Given the circumstances we find ourselves. Our people must be straightforward on these things so that you pay realistic wage. And that also calls for what? Equal work. And that recipient of such wages must also deliver. And then that means you increase output and then the person paying will not be also a loser. You extend the conversation, it gives you an idea that there is the need to work at what productivity at all times. We are interested in the wages, but are we working to improve the quality of service that we deliver? Is it the case that it's government job, so you can handle it anyhow? We need to change our attitude and also make sure that what we receive is what we give in terms of what our labor. It is critical. And I want the committee also to do their work in such a way that those who are managing the economy of this country will work towards dealing with industrial actions, industrial strike and all that. It's becoming one too many. You saw before the last election, almost everybody, every government worker was up in arms against the government relative to the topic we are looking at. That must cease, because for me as a student of politics, it is one of the public opinion tools that we use to gauge whether there's stability in the government and whether the government is doing anything meaningful. It escaped the attention of the political watchers within the MPP, and they had their fingers bent. This time around, the NDC government should be able to have a political officer who will be able to look at these things, advise government, and they take important decisions. Because these public opinion tools, they come to light when you have instability. Gold for oil. Yeah. Yes, I'm not an expert in that area, but I believe that with my little mind, political parties must develop individuals who have capacity to do businesses and to be able to create those individuals who will support us when we are in difficulty. Look at the example of Nigeria, where you have, that billionaire there trying to build a refinery for them. Dangote. Here we have political parties deliberately destroying the businesses of Ghanaians, that we are not able to build those business moguls who will be able to do this thing as private entities. That is a way to go, because let us remember that for governance, you need to be able to develop your own, than with a cap in hand, globe-trotting, looking for resources to do this. So political parties must turn their attention to building people here so that one day they will take up this challenge and it will be healthy for all.
Doc, do I get some quick comments on the release of ex-Minister for Labour and second suspect granted bail on that violence clash we saw in Swatreman?
I've not been following the story, but once it's in court, you know my position.
Yeah.
It's an appropriate forum. I'll wait. When the court delivers, we'll come and then also digest the issues.
Right, thank you. Just the headlines for the Custodian newspaper. Mahama to cancel teacher trainee allowances again. He just discussed that. Tame your wild dogs. Apenyo Markin to Ayariga. A Blackwell's lavish lifestyle under scrutiny. Backbone lift suspension of 4 MPs. And these are just the stories on the Custodian newspaper. Ben?
Well, Economy Times, Ghana earns record high $5 billion in trade surplus in 2024. Islamic finance experts proposal to the Mahama administration to bridge funding gaps, and Dr. John Esiama nominated as new Bank of Ghana governor. I'll just do these two quick ones and then go on to another paper. Now, a combination of surging gold prices on one side and the reduced availability of foreign exchange due to the closure of Ghana's access to international capital markets, coupled with the inordinate cost of international trading currencies, have supported an improvement in the country's merchandise trade performance to a long-term surplus position in 2024. And that's Economy Times newspaper. Last year, Ghana recorded a merchandise trade surplus of $4,980 million, which was 46% higher than the surplus of $2,694.5 million and in 2023. We've also heard in recent times how the gold for oil policy, I don't know whether it's gold for oil, no, the Bank of Ghana, the central bank, shoring up on its gold reserves has impacted the central bank. And again, that's the Economy Times newspaper, Economy Times newspaper. Now, the discussions around the introduction of Islamic financing models to augment Ghana's access to needed funding to address pressing development needs of the country has lingered over decades, in spite of the financial laws of the country permitting the country to explore the vast market of Islamic finance products, which have been touted as the most sustainable and prudent sources of developmental funding. The regulatory framework is not attended to, thereby curtailing all efforts by the Ghanaians to exploit the market. So basically, it's a call. Islamic financing is known in many parts. I've seen a few banks or financial entities that are predominantly geared towards Islamic financing. There was this bank, it was on the Nima Highway stretch. I've just forgotten the name. I think later it's changed name. It was also one of those entities, but more regulation in that regard is what is being called for by experts. The New Finder newspaper, let me just add, Tallow Petroleum Commission boosts indigenous businesses for sustainable growth. COPEC urges transport unions to be considerate in adjusting fair prices amid fuel increment. And those are the key stories in there. I will add the Ghanaian publisher and pause there. Dapea Mekpo replies Akwesi Akwa silly joke, and it's about his his gonads. Let me use the technical term. His gonads, his male reproductive organs, being squeezed in Parliament, and he says that was a silly joke, that no such thing happened. Speaker lifts MP's suspension in defense of the NLA boss. But I wanted to highlight this and commend the NCCE on it. If you look at the back page of the New Publisher newspaper, you'll see something there. It's an advert by the NCCE, and it says the fight against Galamsey is still a challenge. What can be done to end the menace? And it's actually the NCCE putting up that advert, and I thought it was worthy of mentioning at least some work being done in that regard. Any quick reactions? I'll start with you, Dr. Mohammed.
Yeah, well, I'll start with the issue of the currency and also...
And unfortunately, for the sake of time, it has to be very brief because we go off in about 2 minutes.
So, you know that Ghana went on deficit financing for quite some time now. Right. And also, if you look at it critically, you realize that our current account went on negative 3 years ago. And now, if you are recording a surplus, it means that we are going to up our game and things are going to be closing very soon. I think that is a very good step, a step in the right direction. Islamic financing has been touted to be an interest-free financing instrument. I believe that it's an alternative development financing model that the government can adapt. So if we are triggering in a very higher debt environment, the best option to go for is to go for interest-free financial assets. So we need to put in the regulations to be able to bring in Islamic banking in Ghana. And strangely, the NDC have had this in their manifesto. So I believe that they should just walk the talk. If you have it in your manifesto, just implement it, and that will be better for us. On the issue of NCC giving education on some of these things, I believe that what happened in Parliament is something that we need to put measures in place to be able to stop. So the President, the Speaker of Parliament setting up the committee is going to help in the right direction to be able to put some of these things into a better position. Lastly, I think there was... Okay.
Is there any other one you wanted to refer to? Is it the Dapea Mekpo story in Parliament, or is it the petroleum issue, adjusting fares?
The Petroleum Commission statement.
Right.
On increment of fares.
Right.
I believe that yes, there is always a committee in place to be able to either to increase the fare or to reduce the fare. So the drivers will always have to come into an agreement with transport. Ministry of Transport, so that they can fix an appropriate fare for everybody. There shouldn't be a lose out. There should be a win-win situation. What that means is that the transport operators should not lose as a result of increments in petroleum prices, and also patronage of people who use transport, public transport should also not lose out. So I believe that they can come together to ensure that there is a better win-win situation for all of them.
Thank you. We have a little more time so we can articulate on matters. Dr. Asan Asante, your thoughts on these stories?
I will look at NCC and the Galamsey story. You know Galamsey story, I love it because we want to save the ecology and save our lives. We took this matter to the highest level during the campaign, and we are now in governance. I have already started talking, and you recall that I did criticize Mr. Mahama that I was disappointed in his inaugural speech where Galamsey did not feature. We want the fight to be sustained, and then we want a decisive action from government. So we want to be clear. I listened to the minister who is Mr. Bua, and he was talking about a few things we want to do. We want a decisive action because the problem as we have is a big one. and we need to confront it head on. If we are able to do this, you and I know that we can rake in a lot of money in terms of what the people that we engage. Let us encourage, proper mining that regulates, that there is regulation, that there is also proper procedures of what handling these things, so that we get the youth. If we're able to do this, there are a lot of people we can engage or employ in this sector. I have chanced upon a certain data which says that about the first quarter of last year, Ghana was able to rake in about $2.2 billion relative towards small-scale mining. If this is the case, why are we in IMF looking for $3 billion? We need to what? Up the game here, stop it, encourage professional and decent ones, and then we get more people to be employed, because I'm told that through that quarter, we're able to employ 1 million people. If we extend this and do it professionally, we are going to get a lot of our people employed there, and we sanitize the environment. And then we save our cash crop, such as cocoa, which is facing a threat related to what these activities. And always the conversation has been on, galamsey, but the cocoa and other crops that we depend on for our survival and for export, we have thrown that away and allow metals to find expression in these crops. It's not the best. I will also look at the Islamic financing. It's a good thing, and that the earlier, the better. Let's get all the stakeholders in place and decide. I always keep emphasizing stakeholders, because this is a country that is modeled along what the good governance principle, which says that whatever decision you want to take, and if you want to stand the test of time, you need stakeholders, their input, so that when a decision is reached, they can defend it, and when it's under attack, they can also come in to rescue the situation. I always want stakeholder participation in this.
Right.
I think these are the two stories I will touch on.
All right. Let's get into other papers. I have related stories, but sweetie, what other stories do you have?
Well, if we have time, let me get into the Custodian newspaper. There are some interesting stories there, but I want to start from the back page on the international front, but it's a very sad story and maybe something we can call justice. 5 men have been sentenced to death by hanging in Nigeria's Kano State for the 2023 murder of a woman they accused of witchcraft. The convicted men attacked Dahari Abubakar, 67-year-old woman, as she was working on her farm, beating and stabbing her to death. Mrs. Abubakar's family went to the authorities, and the suspect was swiftly arrested in a village 45 kilometers from Kano, the largest city in northern Nigeria. And we know that 5 of them have been sentenced to death by hanging. And that brings to the question, what are we doing about our anti-witchcraft bill? The last I knew ahead of it, Shraj was asking to engage President John Dramani Mahama over that bill, because we know it wasn't signed under the previous administration. We should really look at this. Let me add some other stories, and then I'll come to you, gentlemen. Tame your wild dogs, Appenyo-Markin to Ayariga, the minority leader in Parliament. Alexander Appenyo-Markin urging the majority leader to rein in what he described as the National Democratic Congress wild dogs in the House. Then there's a story about a Blackwell's lavish lifestyle under scrutiny. Special committee probes vetting chaos. The Special Committee of Parliament tasked to investigate the disturbances that marred the recent sittings of the Appointments Committee has officially commenced its work, pledging a transparent and impartial inquiry. And the last story that I'll get to, GSS assesses phase 2 of planting for jobs, food and jobs. The Ghana Statistical Service, in partnership with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, has launched a survey that will assess phase 2 of the Planting for Food and Jobs initiative. And good news, Dr. Kwame Asasante, this assessment.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You know, public policies need to be what? Evaluated, and if they stand the test of time, you maintain them.
Yeah.
If they are not good, you improve them. And if you think that you can sustain them, you jettison them. That is how public policies are made. So it's a regular and a continuous effort to review so as to ensure that you get the best. Remember, public policies are driven by statewide resources. So to ensure prudence, that's what you do. So I am always surprised when I see a certain policy left to lie for a very long time, only for the leaders to come one day and tell us that, oh, we are not implementing it anymore. No, that's not the best. The best thing is that continue to evaluate the policy from time to time and see whether there's a need to improve it. So if they are going to improve that program, it's a good thing. Remember, sometimes I ask myself that this country, do we want to break the neck of poverty? The only way out, perhaps the most important way, is through agriculture. That's it. Because the mainstay of this country is agriculture. We have abandoned it and we are doing something. Agri will support food production and support industry and give us better health. If we are able to produce what we consume here, we'll save ourselves a lot of hard currency we have to struggle and get. So I am always for the green revolution, where we support agri through thick and thin, and then we make the best for ourselves. Then we can be able to know that what we produce is what we consume, and then the quality is top-notch. We can assure ourselves of that, and that will create more jobs for our people, give our people hope, and then we can also export for money. Issue of witchcraft.
Yes.
It's a sad story. And you pose the relevant question, sweetie, that what is happening to our bill here? It seems it's been abandoned.
Yeah.
We need to activate this, because how do you describe somebody as a witch? I still can't wrap my hand around this, because it's problematic. It's problematic. If you can make ends meet, it's not any witch. Aristotle has always given us a guide that self-introspection is critical. The unexamined life is not worth living. So why do you attribute to a witch? If you were doing well in life, would you also attribute it to a witch? I mean, look at the flip side of that conversation.
Yeah.
It tells us that we have our destiny in our own hand. We need to work and then make sure that we improve our lot and spare people who are old. It's not a crime for people to be old people. I have my brother, my father's younger brother alive, and I'm so happy. My uncle, he's 97 years. Yes, I am always proud of him. I go to him, and these are people, we want them at all times, right? So why are you pouncing on them and killing them and all that? It doesn't make sense. Remember, one day you'll be in that category. Would you want to be called a witch and all that? I always tell people in my family that yes, all the old people regarded them as witches. They are gone. And in my family now in my home at Akupong, I am the head of the family. Who is a witch now? We are in that position. So we should shy away from all these, excuse my language, nonsense, and make sure that we improve ourselves and then will not attribute any blame to any devil or anything.
Doc, I'm curious to know, do you think this is one of those bills that expired with the previous administration? Because Parliament did pass it. It's just the president, ex-president, didn't sign it into a law. So how would we move this forward?
Well, whatever is the case, if it has expired and all that, we can bring it back because it's an important bill. And failure to do justice to it, the society will be blamed forever.
Yeah.
We need to do it and do it very fast. Old people, we love them. We will support them. Let us maintain them. All of us will be in that category one day. And do we want to be treated this way? No, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And I think if we have more time, we can look at other.
Let me go to Dr. Mohammed first. And then, Doc, let's get your thoughts on these other stories.
Well, the agriculture is very important to all of us. And like I keep mentioning, food inflation is up. What are you going to do? It's only through agriculture that we can get that sorted out. And agriculture is the only sector that feeds into the other sectors, the services sector and the industry and manufacturing sector. Without a proper agricultural systems in place, you cannot achieve all of this. So we have to work very hard to ensure that we improve on that. So if the Planting for Food and Jobs is a very good program, why do you have to scrap it? You have to maintain it and improve upon it. Let's evaluate it and let's see the loopholes and work towards it. Especially if you look at the Free Senior High School, we feed our people. Why do you have to import food? So that we can save that foreign currency, so that we can reduce the dependence on foreign food. So let's grow our own food here, feed ourselves, and become more healthier so that we can work to develop the country. So I believe that it is a better way to be able to put things in place so that we can improve our lots, especially our health.
All right.
On the issue of the witchcraft, I believe that if the law is still available and it has expired during the period, let's bring it back to Parliament. Let Parliament look at the law, where the loopholes are. They should smoothen it, and the President should assent his signature. Human rights are very important, and we can't continue to do this to our elderly people. Just like my former lecturer said, we need to put them, we need them at all times. All of us shall be old one day, and you should not be accused of witchcraft and be beaten to death because you are an elderly person.
Yeah.
So I believe that this law should be brought back, and we should hasten to pass the law. And the President should be in a better position to sign the law so that we can protect our aged population.
Thank you. Then over to you.
Well, it's interesting that point has come up, but just as with the LGBTQ bill, these will have to go through processes one more time in Parliament, in the 9th Parliament, and hopefully we can put pen to paper on them. I'll just wrap with these stories from the Daily Searchlight newspaper. Wetlands are disappearing 3 times faster than forests. That's according to the Forestry Commission. And I wanted to tie that doc and doc to the story, not a story, but the ad by the NCCE. So as the world celebrates World Wetlands Day, the Forestry Commission has expressed concern over the rate at which the country's wetlands are disappearing 3 times faster than forests. Now, wetlands are critical for human survival as they provide ecosystem service, including freshwater, food, fiber, medicines, and fuel, mitigate climate variabilities, and protect man from natural disasters. Mr. Hugh Clement Adokwe Brown, the acting chief executive Forestry Commission, said, quote, wetlands filter pollutants and support livelihoods, hence the need for conservation and reservation or restoration to regain its ecological character. So we are walking the tightrope here when it comes to our environment, and if we are not careful, the ramifications could be dire. Our very own lives depend on these. Bafo Ewua granted bail, bodyguard remanded. It has to do with the Nswatreman Football Club issue, and Treme and another suspect, Ajimendua, a police inspector, were in court in connection with the murder of one Francis Frimpong, a supporter of Kumasi Asante Kotoko. And the courts B, presided over by Mr. Eric Denning, on Tuesday granted 500,000 Ghana cedi bail and 3 sureties to, of course, the former Employment and Labour Relations Minister. And British High Commissioner praises UK-trained Ghanaians who come back home to develop the country. We have just about a minute, gentlemen. I'm offering you 30 seconds each, and then we have to go. I'll start with you, Jabir.
Well, and on Nana Polo issue, it's a very dicey issue. Just to get up to go and watch football and you don't come back, it is really worrying. So I believe that the perpetrators of this particular act must be brought to book.
All right. Let me come to you, Dr. Hassan Asante.
I will look at the UK government urging people who have been trained to come back home. It's a good thing. Come and support your home. Ghanaians are worried because Mr. Trump has embarked on a lot of programs in America that has ruffled the feathers of people who are seeking greener pastures there. You can't stop him. Come and build your home so that here nobody can get you off. Home is home.
Right.
Home sweet home.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for those succinct thoughts. Thank you for joining the conversation this morning. And we had joining the conversation Dr. Jabir Mohammed. He is with the University of Ghana Business School. And we also had Dr. Kwame Asante, political scientist and head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Both of them joined us for a conversation.
Well, I have a message coming from Raymond from our Human Resources Department. It's a birthday going out to Mr. Charles Adokwe, the Managing Director of Lone Star Gas Co. Limited. He says, may your star continue to shine and make you the brightest and make bright, I think you mean, the path of all the people you interact with. Remain healthy and strong. You're a good brother, father, and employer. From your little sister, Harriet Najay Jani, children, Jacqueline, Ransford, Stephanie, Emily, and staff of Lone Staff, Happy birthday, sir. We wish you the very best. That ends the news review segment on the AM show, but you know there's so much action coming our way, so please stay. You're still watching the AM show, and it's time now for us to bring you AM Business. And with the establishment of the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, many youth groups are optimistic about the development of youth policies and initiatives. With the startup bill yet to be passed by Parliament and the yet to be established Youth Federation, Joy Business caught up with Sharif Gali, that is the Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs, to discuss the expectations here. We'll tell you more in this report.
As promised, President John Dramani Mahama has set up the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment. With a focus on agribusiness, he's mandated the Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry to pay critical attention to this sector. Here with me today is Sharif Gali, the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs, and we'll be discussing what this holds for the youth, the opportunities available in this space, and how they can capitalize. Also, we'll be gauging his views on what he makes of the president's move and his appointments so far. Welcome, Sharif.
Thank you very much, Osai. Happy New Year.
Many happy returns. And let's go straight. The setting up of the Ministry of Youth Development and Empower with George Opariado as head of the ministry. I mean, for people like you in this sector, you've been calling for something like this for a while. What do you make of this?
So for me, I think that it's a good start for us as youth of Ghana, having to see President John Mahama and the NDC government made that promise. I remember when they were putting together the youth manifesto, we were all called to give in our one or two knowledge. And one of the things I actually talked about was decoupling the youth ministry from sports. And for me, I particularly happy to see that His Excellency did exactly that and had given George Opariado the chance to lead it. So it's a start. It's a good thing that now we have a ministry focusing on youth development and empowerment. But I think we have a lot to still do. And I will say that kudos to the government for fulfilling one of their key things in the manifesto.
A step in the right direction, you say, but there's been a number of challenges in this sector. I mean, I know about the startup bill, which has been on the desk for a while now. I mean, what do you make of this, and what are your expectations going into 2025?
You see, Ghana, as we all know, it's not a hidden thing. Close to about 52% of our population are youth, right? That means the huge number of us Ghanaians are young people. So whatever we are doing, we need to put in policies and programs that will promote and empower these young people to either take up leadership or to either take up entrepreneurship. And a huge number of our youth are unemployed, right? So like I said, it's a step into the right direction. But now what George Opariado, or Minister, Honorable George Opariado, should do is that he has to, first of all, go back to look at their manifesto and all that they promised. They talked about youth entrepreneurship, innovation, skills, digital skills training. They talked about health, the mental health of youth, a lot of things, promising things. So I would want that as they have started manifesting whatever they wrote in their manifesto, they should go back to that manifesto. However, there are key things that also need to be focused on. I said in one of a publication that Ghana needs the Youth Federation. You see, we run a system where we tell the young people you are the leaders, but we are not empowered to lead. Nobody's giving us that way to really lead. Why am I saying this? In 2016, before the NDC left, they made the then National Youth Council to become National Youth Authority with the NYA Act 2016. And inside the Act, it is mentioned by law that they should set up what is called the Youth Federation, which is supposed to be the amalgamation of all registered groups across Ghana. What that seeks to do is that it is going to give an independent voice for youth to be able to support our economic development. It's not supposed to be political.
Do you think that the efforts available now is not enough to empower the youth? I mean, a number of youth agencies currently running, I mean, a number of initiatives, both government and private sector. Do you think this is not enough to empower the youth economically and also leadership-wise?
So the problem in Ghana is that we have, like they say, a lot of meat doesn't spoil the soup. But for us, a lot of meat is spoiling our soup. Because you have a lot of meat that you don't even get the soup to eat again. So yes, we have several agencies. We are talking about National Youth Authority, Youth Employment, NEIP, GEA, Maslock has a component of youth. Every other ministry, it's not only them, every other ministry have something on youth, even Ministry of Trade and Agriculture, now Agribiz, right? The point is that even having all of this, there is not that point where they all synchronize or they all coordinate their effort. That is why over the years we have been working on the National Youth Policy. And I want to tell you from today that that National Youth Policy is on the shelves. What the National Youth Policy seeks to do is that we identify the problems of the youth. And now we identify everybody that play a key role in the youth development and assign a certain responsibility to you. At the end of the day, the National Youth Authority mandate is to ensure that if there is anything under Ministry of Trade to do for youth, you are doing it. If there's anything under Ghana Enterprise Agency to do for youth, you are doing it. But the problem is that there is no way to coordinate. There is no way to report. So everybody is doing what they can do in silos. And the problem is, Ghanaian youth are so moved by numbers. So at the end of the day, they come and tell you that, oh, we have done 1 million jobs and we are happy. That something that you cannot see. No, the 1 million jobs they mentioned, there's still 1.2 billion youth working on the road. Nobody has any job. So when you ask them where is the 1 million jobs, they can't say we have created the jobs, but there's no job because they know the youth want to listen to numbers. So the coordination is our problem. If not, Ghana would be one of the best countries that we can empower our youth because of all the structures we have, all the systems we have, but they are not coordinated.
And you believe the Youth Federation will address this situation?
Oh yes, if the Youth Federation is set up, this is an independent body, and they understand what they are doing, and the leadership are not partisan. They understand technically what should be done for the youth. They would have the authority, the National Youth Authority, to ensure that ministries, agencies, department, if you are responsible of or you are given the responsibility of doing something for the youth, you ensure that you do it at the end of the day. That is one of the key works of the federation. And aside that, the federation will be able to mobilize the youth. Remember, mobilization is our problem. How do you mobilize the young people to take up the opportunities? You need a federation, an independent body that the youth would align with. This is our body. This is for us.
Now, let's jump to the starter bill. Now, assuming, if a federation is set up, from all what you say, this would help speed up in the passage of, certain important legislative pieces like the starter bill. Now, with a new minister in place focused on the youth or youth development for that matter, when are you likely to go see him to ensure that there are timelines to the passage of the starter bill?
So for George, my understanding with the new minister, George Oporiado, popularly known as Pablo, is that he has a listening ear. And what he said in his interview, actually I was there at the Parliament House to just give a support. What he said is that he doesn't really care. He doesn't care where you are coming from. As far as you have a proposal that can create jobs for the youth, he, George Oporiado, Minister of Youth Development and Empowerment, is ready to work with you. So I know such a person, if he really meant what he said, will be more open to discussions. And we are looking to engage him anytime soon as a committee that have been working on the Ghana Innovation and Startup Bill. As a minister, this bill should be one thing that George Oporiado should see as a legacy for him. We couldn't get it passed in the previous government. If he gets it passed, it is going to be a big legacy for his ministry. And one of the key ways that he can turn around the startup and entrepreneurship ecosystem within the youth. There are a lot of funding in that area. The development partners are watching. You have been with us. Last year, you saw World Bank coming in to support the effort of the bill, the International Trade Center, and so many. Ghana just needs to position ourselves and pass this bill to an act so we can attract more funding to support our youth entrepreneurs and startups. You see, sometimes policy, as they say, if you have a very strong policy or a law, it opened up a lot of ways. Last year, same, the African Union also launched the African Union Startup Framework and Startup Bill. Exactly. And they are asking all the 54 African state members to adopt it. So nobody would have to come and convince you that this is an important thing. Right. And some of these things, Ghana would have been the first to take the lead, just that where we are not. Now Nigeria has about 12 to 13 countries in Ghana have passed their startup bill. In 2013, when Nigeria passed their own, they were able to get a $200 million funding into a fund that will support startups. Ghana can do the same thing. So for me, we'll be engaging George Oparado very soon. It's not only George, we'll also be engaging Sam George himself. He is also Minister of Communication and Innovation, because these are the two key ministries, so that we can quickly put heads together. The committee will let them know the work we have done so far, where we are now, and if possible, if there can be timelines for us to get it passed, we'll definitely get back to people like you and communicate whatever discussion we have with the new minister. But we are hoping and believe that having to engage them unofficially, there are people that would support this bill to be passed, because if the bill is passed, it definitely is going to be a legacy for them going forward, and it will help especially George Oparado to be able to create that needed jobs for the youth.
What should be his first line of action? What should he tackle first?
First, he should do a holistic, non-political stakeholder engagement. Call all the youth leaders together, identify them, bring them together, have a discussion with them. You see, his ministry is quite new, and he will need innovative people to help him come up with ideas and programs to help the youth. I know already they have some beautiful things in their manifesto, but that alone is not going to stand. We need more innovative ideas. For example, on youth entrepreneurship, innovation, and startup. Because if you really, really want to create jobs for the now Ghanaian youth, you need to be thinking entrepreneurial. How do we do this? By virtue of the fact that some of us have run the Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs and other ecosystem actors, we are available to support. So first thing he needs to do as a minister is to conduct a holistic, non-partisan stakeholder engagement of all youth leaders, even bringing in MPP youth leaders who have experience. Then the second thing is he has to do, like I said, for me, is to start the formation of the Youth Federation. Right. The Youth Federation will help his ministry a lot than any other. Imagine the minister has youth leaders who are independent and non-partisan and able to give him objective views. It's going to help him a lot. And then the last one for me he has to do is to focus on youth entrepreneurship, innovation, and startup. If you really want to help His Excellency John Dramani Mahama create the 1 million jobs, and the opportunities in that sector they are enormous.
With the trade ministry now, being reorganized to have a focus on agribusiness, what do you make of this, and how can this impact, agric entrepreneurs or young agric businesses for that matter?
So that was also another thing that I was happy about, to see that this current government introduced agribusiness into trade. That is unconventional, but I love it, because promoting trade, they added agribusiness. Somebody will say that why is it not going to the Ministry of Agri? But I love the dynamics. At least it has given the opportunity to the Ministry of Trade to promote agriculture. But now connecting it to the youth, her focus will be to design programs that can provide access to funding to youth who want to go into agriculture. And at least, how can we have access to lands? Even with the Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs, that it is just us. We started something with funding from SMV, the Netherlands NGO, which was Brafie, means come back home and farm. So what we did was we went to chiefs that we know have command over a lot of lands, farmlands. We wrote to them as just as Ghana Chamber, and then one chief gave us 1,000 acres of land in Ashanti region, another did in Bono, and then northern region we have over 500 acres of land. They donated it to the chamber. The government also have lands. Even if government doesn't have land, government can lobby with kings and queens to get farmlands for our youth to farm. If we can get them those and get them the funding, the Ghanaian youth are going to employ technology to give us the best out of farm.
Now, Sharif, I know there's a lot whenever it comes to the development of the sector, but your final words, I mean, a new government in place, new ministers, new vision. What are your expectations?
So our expectation is that new government, new ministries, there's opportunity. The opportunity lies for us to do a lot, especially the youth, especially the innovation and all of those things. There are a lot for us to do. But let us not make it the winner takes all thing. When we do that, technocrats who can add up, who have rich experience in some of the areas, we are not willing to come out and share because we are even afraid to share what we know and what we can do. Though for me, I don't promote that. We need to share. But there are so many opportunities Ghana can tap on. If they come in and they are open for us to work together, they want to listen, I think that we are available to support them, and we are available to work together to be able to change the fortune of our country by ensuring that our youth are empowered. You can't have a Ministry of Youth Development Empowerment and we don't have any empowered youth. So for Jojo Parado and His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, it's not just a promise. They should see this to be a big thing. And I'm happy listening to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Every time he talks about youth, he talks about job. This is where we need to really do the thinking. I have seen few appointments, some a bit not too okay, a bit disappointing, but others very good so far. I can say that 80%, if you give all out of 10, I can say 9. But let's see if those even people who I think that they are not supposed to be there are open, we would support them with the ideas for us to be able to help run Ghana. So yes, we are giving them, we'll start talking very soon, but we are just watching. Yes.
And that is the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs. He says he won't be doing much talking for now, but he will be quietly observing. And when the time comes, he will go to the ministries himself and make sure things are done. Thank you for watching.
Welcome back on the AM show. And as we segue into our big stories, we're going to kickstart matters with a conversation with the newly appointed Economic Policy Advisor to the Office of the Vice President. I'm talking about Professor Sharif Mahmoud Khalid. He joins the conversation this morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
How are you?
Yeah, I'd say by grace we're trying. We're doing well.
And of course, Suti Abochi is also on the wings or in the wings. But I'm just checking you out to see whether anything has changed since you took office.
What would have changed?
It's been a while since you joined us for a review or a conversation.
I know the campaign took me away.
The campaign took you away.
Yeah.
Right. Last I saw of you in terms of that was at the Okujatua Blakwa organized.
You
remember the SNIT?
The SNIT.
SNIT hotels.
When we're trying to save the country.
Yeah.
And in the end, the hotel ended up posting profits.
But that had never been in doubt.
Well, so why was it going up for sale?
It was one of many.
Right. Yeah, but that particular one.
Yeah, anyway. Good to have you join the conversation, right. Sweetie.
Would you say that work you did, supporting the cause, earned you this nomination?
Well, I don't know about that one, but the president has a variety of factors that he looks into. I don't think it's only one factor.
If you were to make an educated guess, how did you think he landed here?
Well, I mean, it's quite an interesting question to ask.
Yeah.
I didn't make the appointment. So the appointed authority would best know the criteria that was used. Yeah.
What does your job, your new role, what does it entail as a policy advisor on economy to the Office of the Vice President?
I mean, the role spells itself out.
What does it mean? Well, what are your key responsibilities or what are your priorities?
I mean, you engage with the economy, you design policy, you articulate it, you engage with it with key stakeholders, and you try to see the end of it in terms of implementation and impact.
Okay.
Largely, right? But you don't do it in isolation because you're not an island, because there are key sectors of the economy. We have the finance ministry, you've got the Bank of Ghana, there's a central bank.
Yeah.
Right, you've got other government agencies within the finance and economic space that you have. So it permeates across most facets of the economy outside.
Right. And I believe you have some unique set of skills and experience or expertise that you're bringing on board. We are trying to unravel you. This whole conversation is about you. So let's get up close. Yeah. What skills, what What's new? What's new that you are bringing to the...
Now, when you say what's new, that's quite an interesting question, a very broad one. We could probably talk about that till the cows come home. But, I mean, I've been a finance and economic academic for well over a decade, right? Lecturing exclusively in Russell Group universities. And as you know, Russell Group universities are the Ivy Leagues of the UK. And I've published extensively in these areas as well, in the leading chartered ABS journals, nothing below that. So, and apart from that, I've been engaging governments across the continent, as far as economy is concerned, as far as economics and finance is concerned. So I think that it's an opportunity for me as a young person, right, to be part of the drive towards. I'm a cog in a wheel as far as this is concerned, because there are different cogs in the wheel that would have to come together to actually deliver this and reset Ghana.
There's that phrase again, reset Ghana. And I believe the office of the Vice President is also working hard to augment the work of the President.
Day and night.
We don't see much of her, especially not in the media circles.
Well, but there's a lot happening. When you say you don't see much of her, that's
you know, we see the President, well, the President travels with his own press corps, so we get access to what he's doing. But the Vice President, maybe she's doing so much work. Even during campaign time, we didn't see her in the media. And I heard that it was because it's some sort of strategy. She went to the grassroots, the women without cameras.
No, well, I mean, when you say women without cameras, she was everywhere. Her presence was being felt. I mean, these days, with new media, it's still quite interesting when someone says, we don't see someone. When new media, she's got a massive presence within the new media space. We've got the traditional mainstream media, which you and I know. But new media goes faster, it is hotter, and receive much more nicer just by the click of buttons. And if you check new media, I'm sure this assertion would change. So, but that's not to say that she's not has a presence, or she's not had a presence within the mainstream media space as well. If you look at the papers, I mean, print, electronic, all of that. So when you say you're not seeing her presence, it's
I'm doing a comparison.
A comparison,
yeah, between
but, I mean,
how much we see the president and what we see from the vice president.
You're comparing a vice president and a president.
Are they not working
you know their role.
together?
They are working together, but I mean, if you're saying that you're comparing a vice president to another vice president or a president to another president, then we can have the debate.
Well.
Right. So I guess it's a fair one.
Okay. What is your assessment, just before Ben comes in, what is your assessment of where I remember when we asked you this question the first time we engaged you, was your assessment of the state of the country, current affairs, what's happening? What would be your assessment? Now you are in office.
Okay.
A month or so, barely a month.
You're putting my feet to the fire.
I'm trying to get to know what's going on in your head right now.
I mean,
what would be your assessment, state of affairs?
I mean, state of affairs has been pretty much okay. I wouldn't say because I'm part of the government, but as you say, I was speaking to one of your sister stations. I think that was on Monday night, Metro TV, and I said, look, the government has been focused on positive signaling. What I call positive signaling. And by positive signaling, it's all aimed at recovering the economy, right? Injecting confidence into the economy, injecting confidence into society in terms of security, among other issues. And when we talk about signaling, you saw President Mahama between the transitionary period and his swearing-in period, he worked tirelessly, flew across the length and breadth of Africa, inviting African heads of state to join. Right, and we had about not less than 25 African states attending the event. That in and of itself was an injection of confidence into Ghana as far as the economy is concerned, as far as the international relations front is concerned, right, and as far as international security, or for that matter, security of the sub-region and the African continent is concerned. You would realize that there's been a breakaway of some countries within the economic bloc called ECOWAS.
Yes.
Forming what is called the Sahel. Interestingly, President Mahama managed to bring all of these Sahel states to the inauguration.
No, without its own controversy about the gun strapped to Ibrahim Traore's
side.
I
mean, those were, how shall I say, they were naive commentary in the sense that, when I say that, because you're talking about a military juncture, you're talking about a military man strapped, that if he had close protection and had sought earlier, that they should
The
have
reason
that.
I think we can't downplay it because you started by saying positive signaling.
Yeah, positive
that in itself
signaling.
is a signal, is it not?
No, it is. But the point is that was a precedent, right? A military precedent. Now, if his close protection, who are just few meters away from him, could have guns strapped on them, what is wrong with that?
Benjamin Akakpo, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, but I think if we go on that tangent, we're going to lose focus as far. We get lost in this discussion. But what I'm saying is that standard protocol internationally, close protections you could apply ahead of time, right, for your close protection to weld sidearms. But this is what I'm saying. He is a military leader, right? He's not a civilian, right? I was not privy to whether he really applied for that. But what I'm just saying, logically, if he had close protection, who are just few meters away from him, could weld sidearms, and he's welding a sidearm himself.
I know that the president enjoys a lot of diplomatic goodwill, but at the core of it, it's also a signal. We all, you know, I think before the latest Afrobarometer reports, there was that direction that young people were leaning towards, you know, military regimes and all that. There were so many nuances surrounding that.
But the point is,
particular
I thought that we should be reading positivity out of it, in the sense that they've just withdrawn from ECOWAS. ECOWAS is devastated by their withdrawal. And you and I would agree that ECOWAS' handling of this issue was slightly rushed, slightly not very diplomatic in the sense of it. I'm not speaking on government terms. I'm just engaging you based on what it is. So if a president manages to bring all of these people together under one umbrella, I think that's the commendation we ought to be looked at. And for all you know...
Without condemning what you call trivial issue?
Well, I didn't
Not your words, mine. But
I mean, I think that's what I'm saying. If we dwell on this,
okay, let's.
If we dwell on this, we're going to lose focus as far as this is concerned. I'm sure ECOWAS will be looking to bring them back, right? And if a president manages to bring them to his inauguration, he'll be the one they'll look up to actually be the mediator to have this. So I mean, I think bringing them on board was much more important, and that is the positive signaling I'm talking about, right? So I think a lot more could be done in terms of engaging them. And as you'd see also, the president was quick enough to assemble a decent cabinet or near cabinet. As you'd see, very strategic sectors. You had the finance ministry, you had, we have a finance minister, at least as of now, right? And he's already making giant strides as far as the economy is concerned, which again is signaling, or positive signaling. We're talking about sustainability. Right, we're talking about confidence, having to engage with the IMF behind scenes, having to come out with an MOU, right, on an ongoing program to say this is what we did, and getting all 25 participating stakeholders to sign up to it. In and of itself, again, it's another confidence in the economy. Now you look at energy, we have an energy minister in place. Attorney General. These were one of the very early appointments the president made.
Okay.
Right. And again, in terms of what I term positive signaling, it was aimed at actually trying to tell the people that I'm ready to serve.
Okay.
Now you look at other key sectors of the economy. And for me, the excitement which you and I and Benjamin should be excited about, it's the appointment of youth into this government and into key strategic places, which sort of signaling a positive future, right? You know, offering a swell ground for the growth and inculcation of leadership and responsibility. And I think he's read the room so well to know that, you know, Africa is a very youthful population now. It's heading somewhere. I need to put confidence in these young lads and ladies coming up. So you'd see that for a government that is 20 plus days old, right, I think President Mahama and the Vice President, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, needs a pat at the back. Yeah. They do, Benjamin.
Well, to the comment about 20 plus days old, all I would say is TikTok.
Yeah, it's. I mean, but
not the app.
No, you know, he's
with
actually given a raft of activities and initiatives that he'll be embarking on. He's committing to in his 120 days to government. I would expect that you're doing the count. And he's actually meeting most of them as of now, just within 20 plus days.
Which is
that again, it's huge confidence and commitment to resetting Ghana and to delivering.
But time has shown that time flies.
Yeah.
And if you don't run with time, it will leave you behind. So 120 days, about 20 of those gone already, plus. And there's quite a lot still to be done. But I'm going to give you a canvas, right? Canvas.
That's a very dangerous place to be.
With, I don't know whether I should give you paint or crayons, but paint for us a picture of where our economy is today.
Well, that's quite an interesting question. I mean, if statistically, if you look at it, there have been some confidence, as I'll say, anecdotally, and I use that advisedly. Right, anecdotally in the sense that if a government comes into place and you want to paint a picture of a government's economy, you have to look at first quarter, right? Because the government took office on the 7th of January. First quarter data is not out yet, right? A budget has not been read. Right? So if you want to really paint a picture of, say, where the economy is, that would be quite controversial and unrealistic, if you ask me, from an economic point of view, which is why we're looking at these signals or signaling approach. Right. So, but you would see that, again, if you look at the anecdotes, that will reflect in probably the first quarter statistics that will be coming out from the various financial intelligence services, among other issues. But I spoke to bankers who are beginning to tell us that there is some confidence in savings coming back, right after the elections. And these are normal. If people believe that, okay, well, a new government is in place, there's probably going to be goodwill on the part of the government. Can we return to the banks to start depositing real money, right? And I've had a couple of bankers telling me they've exceeded their targets, among other issues. But as I said, these are all anecdotes, right? We need to see the real figures in the first quarter, the second quarter, and for that matter, the fourth quarter, that to really appreciate the real functionality of the economy. But as you know, we are under an IMF program. And what I keep saying about this IMF program is that it's the most unique we've had. We could have been to the IMF 16 times, as they say politically. But you don't realize that this particular program is quite unique in the sense that we struggle for some of the tranches. So the impact it ordinarily would have on the economy, where you would have forex dealers waiting for the facility to hit the central bank's kitty, or for that matter, the government's kitty to run businesses, was lost. So probably what we enjoy is technical assistance, which, again, is a good thing, but the impact may not be as great as it is with the government inheriting it. But trusting the team in place, I mean, as I say, we have the Venerable Arthur Forson, who is quite very experienced, having been Deputy Minister of Finance, having been ranking member of finance, having been leader of the minority side, and having been, leader of the majority before transiting to become finance minister. It's quite. And you have the Venerable Seth Tekwe also, going through this very meal, advising the president. He's
going to be advisor
on economy. So I think a great team has been put together. Then you see the president's real commitment to key manifesto promises. For example, he's got an advisor on the 24-hour economy. Guzitano, fantastic. Old brain that really works like a machine, and I have appreciation of policy. He's a policy workhorse, if you ask me. And those within the policy space respect his work, and they know what he can deliver.
It's good you're bringing up these issues.
Yes.
Eventually,
then I mean,
some of them. But
also, if you were looking at,
let's take this.
Can I land this?
Okay, go ahead.
So, and if you look at commitment, also the vice president very passionate about the Women's Development Bank. And as you would see in the news, I don't know if Sweetie saw that, because she's saying much of that I've not been seen in the news, is her early engagements with the African Development Bank pertaining to the Women's Development Bank, because she met the country manager and some key officials of the African Development Bank discussing these issues. And the interesting feature of this was that she brought in the manifesto subcommittee that actually birthed that, right? And when that happened, what it showed was that there is continuity and commitment to the very people who birthed this and we're not going to leave you any step of the way. You know, we dissolve committees, we move on. No, the government is going to, you know, carry these subcommittees along in resetting Ghana.
Mm. The context of my question was, I mean, you would look at Forex, you would look at the cost of living, you would look at some of the basic demands. The tripartite committee has been sitting to peg the minimum wage.
All of these are signs.
You look at the $650 million or so that we're expecting from the IMF. But then you also look at about the $138 million that is not going to come in the immediate term to Ghana because Trump has decided that some of the aid that goes to certain countries should not come. It's a whole, I wouldn't call it a Pandora's box, but it will need quite a bit of unraveling. These are not very certain moments. You're coming from an administration that economically left us in the lurch, so to speak, which you criticized.
Of course.
And now we're getting into this next phase. The issue is there's no time. Anyone who tries to mollify by suggesting that there's time, there is no time. And the time to have started work is yesterday. And the president knows that. He's suggested that in his rhetoric. I was just asking that in the context of, while it is just a few days, what moves have been made? You spoke about the signaling.
The signaling.
That can point us to a certain direction at the end of, say, Q1 2025.
I mean, you look at all of this. We talked about how gold is significant in backing currencies and, you know, augmenting reserves. Right. A key commitment to that has been, you know, setting up a technical committee. Right.
You mean the Gold Committee?
Committee. And that, again, is a significant feat, right? Time, as I said, President Mahama has been working since yesterday. If he's been working during the transitionary period before he got sworn in, it indicates the kind of commitment he already has. And if you look at the key, you know, financial institutions, I mean, we just had a governor of the central bank, right? He's worked there 23 years. He's been deputy governor before, and he's coming back as governor. He's coming with key experience. I've worked with him quite well with the subcommittee on the economy and finance. And yes, and he's coming with, you know, savvy skills. You know, central banks are quite traditional in their growth and outlook, right? Because they're quite a conservative institution. But this is a very modern governor, right? You know, who believes in key concepts that can drive around, because, you know, he talks more about the twin peak model of central banking, which is a very modernized version of central banking. And to have these fresh ideas and be named governor, I think, is very fundamental and important. So we're all looking up to him to see what he can do in terms of, you know, playing that pivotal role that central banks
play. Quickly on the governor, before you move on. Are you going to give any credit to Dr. Addison? I mean, some of us were at the forefront of criticizing some of his actions, including digging the central bank into a 60 billion Ghana cedi hole. But at the same time, the purchase of gold and all of that has also led to accumulation of some reserves for Ghana. Pretty unprecedented. Is that something worth celebrating?
When you say pretty, but that's the functionality of a central bank anyway. It's not rocket science.
But it's an option that some
it's an option that
have not been adopted. He decided to adopt it. At least that gives a bit of a cushion as far as the central bank is concerned.
Well, I mean, if you dig a hole and you need to fill it, you have to find innovative ways of filling it. Right.
Good move
I mean, the point is, what growth or greater impact has it made? Because I would like to speak to the numbers. For now, we're speaking in a vacuum to say, okay, this is what has happened. What has it appreciated? What amount of gold has been sold or sent out of the country? What is the commensurate value in actually, you know, recovering or providing recovery for our depleting reserves and the black hole that was left in there? Right.
What if you came into government without even that cushion? What would it have meant?
Well, I mean, why would any central bank governor want to do that? Or leave a
you also look at, for example, Economy Times.
The point is, when you look at central banks, sometimes they run traditionally on autopilot systems, right? And to run on autopilot systems and for us to have what we have experienced, I really don't see where you're going with your questions in terms of what you're asking to give someone a pat at the back as far as this is concerned.
It's not about patting on the back.
But you see, the point is...
I'm merely asking you.
No, the point is, if you've realized...
If you'll do this with...
Yeah, I'll do it with you. But if you realize, right, if you realize the tone...
Let me do the question.
Can I come in here?
Let me do the question.
If you realize the tone of this government, right, we've moved away from yesterday's criticism of government A did this, government Y did this, government C did this. If you look at the Honorable Atupo Folson's posturing when he was discussing the MOU and the agreements, he never referred to any derogatory comment about what a government did. But we all know what we saw in the economy. We all know what we saw in the capital markets. So we are more focused to delivering than any other thing. When was the last time in the last 20+ days you've seen President Mahama making comparisons to this? So we are a forward-looking government that is, committed to delivering this and also to try to achieve that economic growth and be the mecca of an economy that we've always boasted of or tried to.
Okay, so let me clarify for you. It's not about lampooning, but I'm a firm believer in the fact that there's no one person who is all black.
Of course.
There are always positives, which is why even as I prefaced my question, I made mention of the fact that I personally had criticized the governor, the central bank's former governor, Dr. Ernest Addison. But if you look at what was done in respect of shoring up our economy backed by gold, I was asking you, was that a positive? I mean, they could have also decided to adopt other routes, which would have not given us the sort of reserves. In fact, if you look at the Economy Times today, Ghana earning record highs with $5 billion trade surplus in 2024.
No, but you see...
These are all some boons that may have come through on the back of that window. And I'm simply asking you. Let me pose the question before you answer. I'm simply asking you, are these at least positives that you can ride on? That's simply the question.
No, but what I'm saying and what I'm invariably telling you is that any central bank governor wet his salt, right, with the current prices of gold would go that route. So I do not see how that is innovative and rocket science.
Gold prices have also skyrocketed in the past. Some central bank governors did not do this.
Right, at the time they were not digging in. He had dug in so well that he needed to do this.
Okay, so it was a move that willy-nilly he had to.
You have to, either than that you would break the bank.
All right. Maybe just a final bit to you before Sweetie comes back into the picture. What do you bring to this role? And I ask because, of course, people have also pointed to, I think it's a bit of a gray area in our national life where we feel the vice president is head of the economic management team. That is something that I feel in a way we have to, because technically or otherwise, I don't know how it plays out. But with the vice president being head, so to speak, of the economic management team, and with some of you at post, there are about 2 or 3 of you, right, in her office. What do you bring to the role as Professor Khalid, and what can we expect as an impact on our economy moving forward?
Well, I mean, I've been a finance and economic or accounting academic, as I said, all my life. Professionally, I've been contributing to the manifesto subcommittee on economy and finance, right? So we at the party level, I've been at the finance and economy. So we've been driving these initiatives. So if a government is formed, then they've asked you to come and have a seat at the table to see how you can, because a government writes on its manifesto, right? And all of these issues that you have discussed within the manifesto or you are committed to delivering, right? It can only be an honor. And, the expertise, the lecture room experiences we've had, the consultancy experiences across the length and breadth of the continent and beyond, right? The papers or academic papers that you and CT probably will not touch because you may deem them as technical. You prefer your daily newspapers. All of that now, it's time to bring them together and see how we can practicalize it and make them user-friendly and impactful to the economy.
Are there tangibles? I mean, in private sector, we'll talk of KPIs and the rest. Are there tangibles? Are there deliverables that, for example, and maybe I am being this incisive because usually when governments come into power, there's a bit of leeway, a little bit of laxity room, and before you realize it, things start
Oh, no.
spiraling.
I mean, you're working with...
If in private enterprise you take up a position, you have clear KPIs.
Yeah.
This is Asumesi, Benjamin Akakpo. You are supposed to deliver X, Y, Z. Are you delivering X, Y, Z? Because if you deliver X, Y, Z, the next person delivers ABC. The next person delivers D, E, F. Coming together, it then makes the whole package that we all want.
Obviously.
What is Professor Khalid expected to deliver?
No, obviously there are KPIs internally, right? I mean, Chatham House rules. There is a government, and running an economy, it's a very important thing. So, and I don't think that you expect that you and I will be discussing our internal KPIs on national TV.
I'm just saying.
No, of course they are, because the principals we work with want to deliver. Both the president and the vice president are key to delivering and to ensuring that the right thing is done. So the day you're appointed, you're handed KPIs, you're assigned responsibilities, and exactly what you do. Right. Driving to the studio, I was still receiving emails left, right, center on what to do. So once I leave this, I have to go and put myself away and try to see what we can meet, and other meetings and engagements will get going. So yes, the government is not sleeping; it's working day and night, rain and shine, and then trying as much as possible to deliver. And I mean, with all the questions coming up, CT, and I expect, again, given that you were trying to give Mr. Addison a fair pass in what you call fairness.
Fairness is always...
Yeah, fairness. I thought that there should be some fairness here. You say, okay, the president and vice president has really done so well at this. Can I give them a pat on the back?
In their
20-something days in government. Is there nothing you can do to that effect, Benjamin?
To give credit here is not to take away from...
I'm not saying you're taking away, but at least...
In fact, the biggest credit we could have given to the president and the vice was to elect them. Okay. So now, once the other side has gone, we focus here and we put your...
Then you're a fair man.
We hold your feet on fire.
You're a fair man.
I am.
Yeah, so please
and I want I want to ride on that. We have actually put you in power now. And you mentioned that the president started working yesterday.
Yes.
You're no longer playing the blame game.
No,
which means it's live, it's action, and you are saddled ready to go. Yeah. But we're still experiencing inflation. Just yesterday, I heard that fuel prices were increasing. There's so much going on. Yeah. And you talk about gold and cocoa. I'm just curious. Also, this government promised some tax cuts, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, besides gold and cocoa, is there any other plan? Have you identified any other element, thing, as an economic driver? Because mind you, you're reducing all these taxes, right? And the problems persist. In 20-something days in office, have you identified any other way to drive the economy besides gold and cocoa?
Sweetie, we still haven't had a full complement of a cabinet, which is in progress. We have key sector ministers who are going to come in place, and that is formed, and the various committees being in place, right, to speak to these issues and for us to have a coherence. As I said, we are government in unison, and we speak to one language. So yes, there's a lot happening behind the scenes. Full disclosure of that would be put out to the media space. And I think for a 20-plus-day-old government, that's early days for me to start to tell you that this is what is happening.
That this government promised transparency and accountability and building the Ghana we want together.
That is exactly what we're doing.
So why not tell us what the plan is?
No, the plan is coming in. We just appointed key people, as I said, central bank governor. Again, an interesting appointment that came to the fore is Dr. Nimoy Thompson, who is heading the National Development Planning Commission, and tells that is a very integral part of our policy program. A stakeholder, what we are missing here is this, a stakeholder, right, conference is going to be held on the economy. They've announced, led by Dr. Ismail Yamson, right? Then Professor Odro is leading that of education. I don't know how much transparency as far as policy is concerned that any government could offer other than these, the fora.
That brings to mind a comment that, is it Mr. Sefwa or Safwa made on this program about the committees that this government has set up to do various things. Committee to set up the education forum or something, engagement, committee for the economic policy dialogue or something. And they say that it's a sort of a committee government. You're just forming committees all over the place.
No, I mean,
how do you respond to something like that?
No, but this is stakeholder engagement, right? And how would anyone want to poo-poo an initiative of a national dialogue on the economy? Mind you, some years past, when we are trying to have the Sanchi engagement on the economy. It was poo-pooed on, right? But what happened? We had a government that came in after having a spending, a borrowing spree on the capital markets, started to have engagements across the length and breadth of country. And I wondered how the cost element of that could have even been, you know, when you juxtapose it to the impact of that could have. But what we are calling for is a stakeholder, you know, fora to have that transparency you're talking or seeking about as far as government policy is concerned. It's a people's government. Let the people be part of it. As we said we
so
had. So
you're saying these committees are stakeholder engagement committees?
No, what you see when I say,
because you set up a lot of committees to actually put up these forums or fora that you talk about, right? For the education, for the economy.
And what's going to happen?
Your critics are saying that you're focused on putting together committees rather than actually doing the work.
No, but what is wrong with bringing key stakeholders in the educational sector, key stakeholders in the financial sector together to discuss economy or to discuss education? What's wrong with that?
Well, that's the question we're asking.
Yeah, so I'm asking, what's wrong with that? Because, I mean, Joy FM, when you start to, you even, you know, you start by having a horizon scan of other stations to see what they're doing. So if we're bringing people in one room to have their perspectives and views and to share with them.
On how to set up that dialogue?
No, we're not asking people to come and set up. I think we're mixing two things.
No. So
we're saying this is a committee.
Hold on a second.
All right.
The government set up a committee to put up or to organize that dialogue on the economy.
Yes.
We have a similar thing in education.
Yes.
And then, in fact, let me extend and add the Gold Board, the committee that was set up to actually put up the machinations for the Gold Board.
Yes.
Now, the critics are saying that instead of just going straight ahead to do the work, organize your forum, organize the dialogue, put up the Gold Board, you are setting up committees.
No. You see, they are mixing two things, and they don't even understand what they're talking about. That if you want to talk about the Gold Board, look at the composition of the Gold Board. You have Dr. Esiama, who is now central bank governor. That's a key stakeholder and a driver of the economy, right? You have Madam Marietta, who used to be a former Attorney General, you know, very experienced lawyer, now the president's legal counsel, being part of it. Right, you have other people from, you know, the gold sector, among other key stakeholders, bringing them together. It's called a technical committee.
To do what? Is the question,
Yeah, to advise and see the implementation of the Gold Board.
Okay.
So do you want a CEO to sit in the office and say, look, I'm drafting a Gold Board? No, it never happens that way. You need to have the key perspectives, bring people, have a buy-in. That's very important.
Didn't the president engage various stakeholders during campaign season?
Well, that was campaign season. There's governance now.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, and look at the eminent people they've put in place to drive this change. Professor Odro is a professor of education, educational planning. Right. I mean, anyone who does educational stuff would know what he's made of and what he's done in the past. Right. So identifying key stakeholders and bringing them together is, I don't know what their understanding of a committee really means. Right, especially so from a government that used to set up committee to clear people that were accused of corruption, among other issues. I don't know what concerns that many other people may have with this.
So the government set up committee to clear people?
Well, I mean,
are you backing that with facts?
No, what was happening in the Flagstaff House in terms of this person has been cleared of corruption, among other issues. Where they
know, that is the same thing they're saying about you. The Attorney General cleared a number of people recently. Some of them have already entered government, right? They can they can also say, it's an argument they can make, that you're clearing all those cases.
What did you say, Attorney General?
Right.
Right. Can they fault any law that the Attorney General did not go through very well, actually, in doing this? If there's anything, they should bring it out and tell us that this is what it is.
Okay.
As far as that is concerned. So nobody is really saying that this is what it is, but the key issues are, I think that, I don't know when committees have become a crime or engaging key stakeholders have become an issue. I think that for me, what is elating here is that it means they have nothing negative to talk about the government.
No,
except
I
to
think the
criticize
concern...
You do have a problem with these committees, sweet.
I'm asking the questions on the minds of many people,
yeah,
right?
But do you
the question is, it's not about me. It's not about my opinion. You promised a lean government, right? Yes. Okay. And then you get into power, and we are seeing all these committees being formed. The question, I guess, is on the minds of people is, how much money is going into these committees before you actually proceed to do the work?
No, but the point is, how long? If you're comparing that to the promise of a lean government is quite interesting.
No.
Sweetie.
How much money is going into paying for these committees?
Have you heard about some monies that
are they all doing the work for free?
No, have you heard about some
monies? No, so you tell us. Are they working for free?
Until something comes out to say that this has been paid for, then we can have a discussion about that. But
so as we speak, there's no money involved.
I haven't said there's no money involved. When you intercept or made a document that says that X amount have been paid to anyone, we can have a discussion.
Okay.
Right. But as for committees, they are a function of any government. So I don't know why that is a problem. More so when they are going to key sectors like such as education and economy.
Right.
Remember, we have inherited a tanked economy. So if we are bringing key stakeholders to resurrect this economy, why should it be a concern to anyone? We are wobbling with the funding for free SHS, the quality for free SHS. So if we are bringing stakeholders, key stakeholders within the educational sector to discuss these issues, what is wrong with this?
Then?
Well, for a fact, every committee that works will require some logistics, some...
Of course, but we don't see them as a functionality of government appointments. When we talk about a lean government. So that lean government comparison was an unfair one, sweetie.
That's okay.
My approach is different.
Okay.
It has, because I've always felt the president has promised 60 ministers. He's sticking to that. Kudos to him. My question has nothing to do with lean governments.
Yeah.
It simply has to do with the fact that committees, of course, will expend something, no matter what kind of committee is set up. Logistically, the devil is in whether what we end up spending is inhibitive, whether what we end up spending for the basic work of the committee, because even stationery will be an expenditure, but whether that gives value, whether we have value for money at the end of the day, that is the bottom line. So for me, it's neither here nor there with a committee, and yes, those claims have been made, but it's neither here nor there because these committees have to do their work. Once you don't have a committee that is sitting for a protracted length of time that does not make sense, and they are coming through with policies and moving on, that is fine. But I want to find out, the economic management team, are we going to still continue with the convention? And I call it convention because it is the VP still going to head the economic management team?
I mean, as you said, the government is being formed, as you would know. Not every minister has even been sworn in. We don't have a full complement of a cabinet, right? But work is in progress, and the president, who is the appointing authority and the announcing authority, as you would see, was coming out with key policies. As to the direction, the president would direct that in no time. So,
okay, so there'll be...
let's be patient.
All right, there'll be further directives.
As to where we are leading in that light. And interestingly, sweetie, this is the vice president, right?
Oh, come on.
I was going to go there, but you've taken...
This is the vice president, right?
But I think your point is valid, but you got what I was driving at, right?
We have precedence.
Yes.
She has a lot of precedence.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Shame on you.
Two areas of the economy which the NDC made promises on, which people are looking forward to. The first has to do with a women's bank or a women's development bank. And I like the idea, though I also have criticisms of the idea because we already have banking sector agencies or avenues, veins that we could tap into. It's like the farming issue where you would say that farmers are not getting loans. The question is, why are they not getting the loans? Is it that government is crowding them out? What are the differences? But here, when it comes to the Women's Development Bank, I'm bringing it up because, of course, she's our first female vice president. What's the approach going to be? Some have called for the Development Bank of Ghana to be changed to that. I spoke to Dr. Jabir Mohammed this morning of the University of Ghana Business School, and he said, no, you can't just, you made a promise. You have to execute that. Don't come and change a name. And
no, I mean,
what is the vice president looking at? What advice are you giving in this regard?
No, I mean, that's, as I said, there have been talks, even during the transitionary period, with development banks, such as the African Development Bank, among other key sectors. And as I said, the interesting thing about that engagement was her insistence that the very committee or the manifesto subcommittee that worked on the Women's Development Bank or that BEV, the Women's Development Bank, ought to be part of this process throughout. So they were invited into the meeting, the committee chair among other key members of the committee. So, but the point is, again, this is at its incubation stages. It's a promise that has been made. There's been argument whether it's coming in the form of a commercial bank or a development bank, among other issues, and how the modalities would be, whether the lending ought to be put in the hands of commercial banks to disburse, among other issues. But the key cardinal force that is holding this big dream of having a women's development bank here, it's statistically, when you look at women in business, right, a lot of them, especially when you look at the microfinance space, struggle to pay back their loans, right? So technical assistance is lacked within that realm. But we have a lot of...
Is it that women struggle to pay back their loans?
No, I said there is data that speaks to that.
The statistics actually show that women tend to be more efficient and effective in paying back loans compared to men.
Well, I haven't made the comparison to men. I'm just trying to tell you how much women are. Yeah, but I mean, when we talk about risk issues and women issues, it's another emblem of statistical data we can always, compare.
Right.
But you look at how women, especially with their business, take a capital or take a loan, right, to invest in a business. But these women, at the same time, are looking at this seed money, right, to look after a family, possibly, especially with single mothers and other issues. So there is this hydra-headed concerns of problems surrounding women in finance. And we talk about financial inclusion, among other issues. That's what the Women's Development Bank is trying to answer. As to the modality of it, we're having key engagements with all of these things. And there's clear commitment, even in the early days of it. No one, I don't know where the debate is coming from that the Development Bank Ghana is going
I've read articles of some
but that's opinions of people. That is not the opinion.
I never said it was government.
No, but I'm just saying, when we bring it in this way, people may think that, okay, it's government. But I mean, that Development Bank Ghana has key partners or development partners. And if you want to do all of this, I mean, there's some argument close to that which is saying, okay, plug and play. Can we probably, onto it and see what we could do? These are all schools of thoughts. And for me, that is exciting about the engagement that has come out and the embrace it's got. But having women or having a bank headed by women with women on the board, among other issues. You see, Sweetie would agree with me that women needs are best understood by women, right? We may pretend or we may support, but they best understand what it is they need. So when it comes to financial inclusion, we are giving them a chance to do this. And that's what this is all about. So I don't see a duplication. I don't see a cancellation or a rebirth of anything. It's a manifesto promise we have, and we are committed to delivering it.
Right. And again, it is proven that, like you mentioned, when women take these loans, especially for SMEs and others, they end up doing quite a bit with them. Some of them end up using part of it for family life. But their contribution, if you look at it comparatively to men, you'd see that they get the short end of the stick. But with the little they get, they're able to do more. And they repay their loans.
Exactly, that's why we're looking at.
So, in essence, are you saying that the vice president, yes, this was a campaign promise, but the vice president is 100% committed to this and will see to its execution, especially when it comes to the economic management team?
No, I mean, if you look at her steps right away from, day one, since taking office, she's been on the campaign trail. She, chanted Women Development Bank, Women Development Bank, Women Development Bank. When she took office, her first few days in engagement was on the Women's Development Bank. So what commitment would we be looking for again from a vice president or from a president as far as this is concerned?
Some of us are canvassing on behalf of the women. Though some economists have said that we don't technically need this. I feel in the end it would be a good thing if we had this predominantly for women, and that it wasn't just having it there, but that it served its purpose efficiently and effectively.
I'll tell you something. I get where that school of thought is coming, which is welcome.
I mean, some of your colleagues,
even with
and you know of this.
No, I know, but even within, we still have people who would have divergent views about it. But I'll make this comparison here. Islamic banking, right?
It's something I was going to touch on briefly.
Okay, right.
It's right here. You didn't see that one.
I didn't see that one, but I was just trying to make a comparison. When Islamic banking emerged into mainstream banking, the argument was that, we cannot have exclusive Islamic banks, right? I mean, in in exclusive Islamic zones, we have that. The riba concept, among other issues. But what they're saying is that can commercial banks or traditional banks have Islamic bank windows to deal with these issues? In the last 20 years, that's what has been happening, where internationally you have the likes of...
I've seen a number of entities, banks, even microfinance
focusing on that. But now it's come to the fore to have exclusive Islamic banks. Right? So it tells you that the exclusivity in and of itself allows a certain level of focus, impact, right, and the trickle-down effect, other than having the window within. Because when a commercial bank says, look, this is my focus, but I'm having a DEX for women, it's going to be entirely different to if we say this is an exclusive bank for women. So for us, it's an embrace of the problems that we feel that women have faced, right? It is an embrace of actually bridging the financial inclusion gap. It is an opportunity to empower women economically, because when women are empowered economically, as we indicated, households are empowered, other than men. Yeah, Benjamin might probably get his salary or take the loan and have a beer or something, but when she takes it, she wants to ensure that every child in the household has been fed.
The good thing is I neither drink nor smoke.
Well, I mean, that was
my final bit. My final bit on this.
You needed to issue that disclaimer. All right. Fair enough.
I'm a teetotaler. So.
Fair enough.
But
welcome to the club.
Oh, you're a member too?
Yes, I am.
Okay, it's just left with a beard. Then we'll be fully compatible.
Okay, that one. All right.
But a crucial issue. Energy.
Yes.
Energy. Recently, I was in cantonments and the lights were out.
Yeah.
I got to the Parakou Estates area, and later in the day, the lights were out, but they came. I mean, you do know that there are about 600 million Africans who suffer from energy poverty.
I know.
So it's not even a Ghana problem. Look at South Africa. Look at it. It's a major issue.
It is.
We want to keep our lights on. The president had said that ad infinitum. But my issue is, with WAPCO and everything that has happened, they are going to do their servicing and all that. And thankfully, government has been able to put in place the mechanisms for fuel to be bought to power. How is that going to feed into the economic conversation from the vice president's office? You are there. How will it feed into our economy? Because like it or not, one of the reasons Ghanaians punished the erstwhile administration was power, apart from the economy and all of that, major issues.
You see, this is a government of unionism, as I said. We tend not to even differentiate that this is what is happening, because we work together, right, as a team. So it's teamwork. You'd realize that when the president took over office, one of his first engagements was on energy. Because what has happened, the data that came before him was that we're going to have a bit of hiccups here and there.
Right.
But we've weathered the storm since. Right, he assembled the real technical people like VRA, ECG, among other issues, and charged them with the responsibility of what could be done for us to fix this problem.
The IPPs.
The IPC, so that we don't plunge this country into darkness. And by far, I think that we've really weathered that storm. And for me, it's a good thing, even though the president is aiming higher to have real sustainability issues and to bring every nook and cranny, every cottage and hamlet to the national grid. And also, there's been a big initiative as well from the energy minister. He's put in a transition committee that's looking at energy transition within sustainable energy provisions, right? Having in the mix is very important to have sustainable measures, especially given the ravages of climate change, among other issues. So we're getting there. So it's not only a fuel problem, but there is real commitment. And once the president swore in the energy minister, he was charged to do this. And he actually put in a committee to look at that. And one interesting thing about all these committees, you see that they're giving timelines. They're not going to work in perpetuity anyway, right? Few days to do that, X, Y, Z to do that. And to still talk about committees, which I think Sweetie was very passionate about, you forgot about the constitutional review one, which appears very bipartisan. Chaired by
H. Kwesi Prempeh.
Yeah, H. Kwesi Prempeh is chairing. I mean, we all know he's not a member of the NDC or he's not a member of the government whatsoever, but the president saw what he can offer. So it tells you the sort of nationalistic approach that President Mahama is bringing to all of these things, and his commitment to delivering on energy, among other issues. And so far, so very good. You'd see that the ministers are formidable best.
Prof, let me take you back to education. It might interest you. I'm sure you've caught wind of that back and forth between the Ministry of Education in terms of scrapping or cancelling teacher trainee allowance, replacing with an enhanced student loan scheme, and the lamentations from those who it affects, because they're saying that we need this, you know, we feed from these monies and all so on and so forth. How do you reconcile the proposal from government to keep it for a while until they've enhanced the student loan scheme and completely cancel it so that students can take loans and be self-sufficient?
I don't think
How do you reconcile what the people are saying and what's the government's
you know, there's always going to be a pushback to any government policy that has existed for a very long time, and they are bringing a change to it. Mind you, in time past, these issues of allowances came for a reason. They came for a reason as a stopgap measure to actually attract people into training colleges, teacher training colleges and nursing training colleges, among other issues. Because there were attrition rates, we didn't have the real numbers, and we needed to encourage people to be a part of it. So now, if you travel across the length and breadth of the developed world, there's nothing like these loans that were existing before. Allowances that were existing before. It's all been converted into loans. So if you look at these allowances, and from the arguments that is being made, I can understand where everyone is coming from. We are not poo-pooing on anyone's concerns. But there are not livelihood supplements, right? But some people treat them as though they are supplements to spend on their lifestyle needs, but they are meant to enhance education. So if it's meant to enhance education, what best can enhance education other than a student loan, which comes with a very minimal interest rate? And as it will say, it's more like an interest-free loan. Until you start to work, nobody deducts anything, right? So I think that, the key stakeholders...
But here's where the difference may come. While I agree on this concept, I've always been against wide subsidies and such actions, as we see in other parts of the world. But like you said, some people, because of where our economy is, see this as some form of sustenance. You get it?
Yes.
The loans we are speaking of, someone will also argue, I could argue that not everybody will go for the loan.
Yes.
Right? Do you get the dynamic?
That's where it helps. So, but you know that the allowances, not everyone needs it. But because it's available, they take it.
Indeed. Right. Which is a point I've made. I made it yesterday. So you're trying to streamline that.
Yeah, it has to be.
How does it? I'm not against that. But how does it?
Neither am I against it. I'm just trying for us to have a real engagement as far as.
How does it feed into the promise that was made pre the election? Because there have been claims about, oh, you promised that the teacher trainee allowances would remain, and now it appears you want to scrap them.
No, nobody's trying to scrap it. Which is why, again, stakeholders.
It appears.
Yeah, it appears. Appears is different. Again, this is where it comes to the committees being engaged among other issues, which is why we're calling for stakeholder consensus to see this. And I trust the erudite Haruna Idrisu, who is our education minister, to do a fantastic job at this. And trust him, he's going to deliver on it. So yes, stakeholder voices are being heard. We've all shared our opinions on this as far as that is concerned. And I'm sure that is going to happen in a very much more embracing way, and every stakeholder will be happy, and people will have routes to. So if it's a loan and you need it, you apply, you go for it, you use it. Mind you, all of these also helps to our pension pots as well, especially when you go via the loan routes. It helps to our pension pots, which cushions the economy among other issues, rather than splashing money away in allowances, which may not really have real tangible impacts on the economy. So there is, an economic debate here to be held.
Well, my final bit to you is to wish you the very best.
Thank you very much.
In this role.
Yeah.
And hope that with your insight and all, you can help the office to help all of us.
I'm bringing you along.
You are in a privileged position, so hopefully you can use that position to contribute quite a lot.
I'm in to serve.
You're in to serve.
Yes, and I'm bringing you all along as stakeholders, the media, to help us to do this right.
So all the best.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much.
And I'm glad to be here this morning again.
Yeah, Professor Sharif Mahmood Khalid, the Economic Policy Advisor to the Office of the Vice President. Thank you so much for joining us for breakfast, I should say. But that's the end for this belt of conversation. There's still more coming your way. But before we go, a gentle reminder that Medicus Hospital is a modern healthcare facility built with your recovery in mind. Spacious wards built with your family in mind. A warm and caring pediatric unit built with your children in mind. And we've assembled some of the brightest minds in medicine, led by Dr. Yao Safo, the drive time doctor, to serve you. And we offer general medical services, as well as specialist services in plastic surgery, obstetrics and gynecology, child health, urology, psychiatry, and eye care. Additionally, we offer a comprehensive medical diagnostic service encompassing endoscopy, medical laboratory services, x-rays and scans. There is also a 24-hour pharmacy that would ensure you will always receive efficacious, safe and affordable medicine. And guess what? We bring to you the most powerful medicine of all, simple human kindness and empathy. And we take pride in holding ourselves to the highest attainable standards. Plus, we accept all forms of payment, including from private health insurance companies. You can locate Medicus Hospital at number 10 Kinsho Street near Ashaliboche School Junction, or simply call 0501 477 340 or reach us on social media at Medicus GH. Medicus Hospital, a place of healing. Then we'll tell you more.
And even as we talk about healing, the entire world is looking for sustainable forms of energy. And that's why I'm going to introduce you to SolarMate Ghana. Select a solar system from our various solar packages ranging from 30,000 cedis to 99,000 Ghana cedis. And all our solar systems come from lithium-ion batteries. You can get a solar water heater, a solar home system, a solar-powered station, or a solar generator ranging from 1,000 watts to 20,000 watts. But that's not all. We also sell reverse osmosis machines for water treatment. So just Google SolarMate Ghana. You'll find us on Facebook and Instagram. And you can also reach us on 0508 320 470. SolarMate Ghana is located at Adregano, East Legon. SolarMate, we go everywhere. And speaking of which, we'll be taking you to our next stop after the break. Do stay. Related matters now, especially as the Ministry of Education has denied that daily graphic reportage purporting to suggest an imminent cessation of the payment of teacher trainee allowances, saying it does not reflect the true position of the ministry. But what does it mean to scrap this allowance? Or what does it mean as the ministry suggests that it's going to transform it into a loan scheme rather than giving allowances? We are discussing these issues this morning with Dr. Peter Anti. He's Executive Director, Institute of Education Studies. Sweetie?
Doc, good morning. Are you online with us?
Good morning.
Right, great. Doc is joining us via Zoom. Doc, this story has come to your attention, I believe. What are your initial reactions to the plan to, enhance the students' loan scheme and replace it eventually with the allowances that teachers and nurses trainees get? What are your initial reactions to this?
Well, I think that is the right thing to do. We supported the government in 2015 when they decided to scrap the allowance and replace it with the loan scheme. So 10 years down the line, the government wants to institute the same measure. And I think that we should have done this long ago. We don't need to politicize this. We need to all support in order that we'll be able to free resources to expand taking our teacher colleges in terms of infrastructure, and also find ways to ensure that we are funding these students in a more efficient and a progressive manner. So I think it's a decision in the right order, and we support it.
Right. So what I'm hearing is we truly don't need the the allowances. Can you tell us why we don't need it?
Well, I remember, I think about 3 years ago, I was invited to speak on this at one of the colleges, one of the conferences that the colleges organized. And one of the things that I told them was that you are being reclassified as a tertiary institution, and you have colleagues in Winneba, UCC doing the same program that you are doing. The advantage that you have is that after even completing there is the possibility that you will be posted to a school. Your colleagues in Winneba and Winneba and UCC do not have that particular advantage. At the end of the day, they are giving student loans and you are giving an allowance. So it does not even speak well in terms of equity funding. It does not speak well in terms of bridging the gap between these two groups of students who are doing the same program and at the same time would go to the job market, and one is readily employed and the other one will struggle. That is one of the reasons. Again, I also told them that, and I remember when I said this, they were laughing, that because you are being paid allowances, you are treated as second, let me put it, advanced secondary school students. That is why you are told when to sleep and when to wake up. You are given a certain form of dress code, how to keep your hair and other things. But at the end of the day, we are saying, and you are fed. But at the end of the day, you are saying that you are tertiary education students. So why should it be difficult for you if you are able to redesign the loan system? And I say redesign the loan system because the current form of the loan system would not be suitable for what we want to achieve. If you're able to redesign the loan system, you should be in the position to be put on this loan system, and then we take the allowance off, save some money, expand the infrastructure in your colleges where you have limited lecture rooms, accommodation is a problem, teaching and learning resources that you need to use to practice before you go to the field are non-existent. We need to rethink outside the box and then use that money to do all those provisions so that you can be trained well and then go to the field and teach whilst you are taking the enhanced student loan system.
Doc, I'll come back to you in a bit, but I just want to bring that statement from the Ministry of Education. It says the Ministry of Education has taken note of a front page publication in the Tuesday, 4th February 2025 edition of the Daily Graphic with the headline, Teacher Trainee Allowance to Go. The headline is not only sensational, but misleading, as their own narration of the story indicated. And they're saying they wish to categorically state that the news item does not reflect the true and accurate reporting of what the Honourable Minister stated. The Minister, during the interaction with executives of the principals of colleges of education, explained that government is open to augmenting the financial needs of students in the colleges of education. To this end, he indicated that government would seek to consider an enhanced loan scheme for students in this category, if need be. In addition, the minister was emphatic that government would maintain the allowances until further deliberations and a firm agreement is reached with all stakeholders. And so they are therefore asking or urging the Daily Graphic to correct the wrong impression created and to give this rejoinder the same prominence as its earlier publication. And media houses, are encouraged to verify information with the ministry where they have doubts so as not to cause unnecessary concerns among our cherished stakeholders. And of course, the Ministry of Education reiterates its commitments to policies that support teacher trainees and education delivery at large. And we urge the public to disregard misleading publication and rely on official communication from the ministry for accurate information. And Doc, you can reflect on this if you like, but I want to ask, on the issue of incentives, most of the people who go to training colleges go there because of these allowances, right? In a way, we might be discouraging them because if we're taking away the incentive, the loan may not be that encouraging. What do you say to that?
Yeah, in the first place, I think the clarity that was brought to bear through the press release was important. When I saw the Daily Graphic reports, I felt that that was a little bit problematic. So I think that it was important that they came to clarify. It also means that we should look at when to put out certain information. I was thinking that this information could have been kept and then discussed extensively during the National Education Forum that is going to happen. I felt that bringing this up at this time would deny a certain level of objectivity when it gets to the Education Forum, because it seems that positions have already been taken, although the minister was clear that subject to what the forum will bring up. I was thinking that he could have just let it slide. He could have just not mentioned it and then table all these at the National Education Forum, where there will be consensus from the stakeholders, and then we can move up from there. That would have saved him all these press releases and then the pressure that is mounting on the government from the teacher trainees front. The incentive.
Doc, would that not be disingenuous? I mean, eventually they will have to talk about it, discuss it, scrap it when they've, solidified what they want to do with the enhanced student loan scheme. So if they withhold that information, to what end?
Yeah, for me, strategy-wise, I think that would have been appropriate, because you need to manage some of these things and the backlashes that come with it. So if, for example, if the minister comes out now and say that free SHS, this is what we are going to do, what are we going to discuss at the forum now? You get the point I'm making. So some of these things that are very topical and people consider it to be very sensitive, I think that he should have put this down. There are so many things that the technicalities of education are facing that he could have brought up. Infrastructure challenges, lack of teaching, learning resources, even the methodology, CTAG strike, all those issues are there that I felt he could have just mentioned. And then he allows the forum to discuss these issues and then come up with a consensus. The plan is to phase it out. Phasing it out means that maybe you will start with the new academic year, the first years that are coming. They will assess an enhanced loan. The second and the third and the fourth years will continue to take their allowances. And then you move gradually in that direction. That is a plan that I think would be suitable for that. But for the incentive, I think there was a rationale for the introduction of the allowances. And as it stands now, we technically do not have teacher shortages. What we have is teacher deployment issues. And if we are able to do redeployment, we'll be able to take care of other things. And I think that introducing the loan should not also cancel out the opportunity to provide full scholarship to students that are needed. For example, there's been conversations about language teachers in certain parts of the country. Like the Ghana people are complaining about their language. There are other people also complaining about their language. Government can institute scholarship scheme for people who want to pursue degrees in these areas. So they are paid fully, means full scholarship and support system given them. So you can do this alongside the loans and other kinds of financial assistance that can be given to the teachers who really need it. But ultimately, you do not need to give these teacher trainees 400 cedis, which technically translates into 144 because some is used to feed them and that delays sometimes for a whole semester. The money is not even paid. I think that we need a more efficient system, a more progressive system to fund higher education, and going forward, this replacement of the enhanced loan scheme would be ideal.
Right, Dr. Anti, there's a rejoinder in the Daily Graphic actually on page 20 on the matter, and the Daily Graphic maintains its stance. It puts out what the education minister has said, and it adds, as the editor's note, this rejoinder was published and edited. The Daily Graphic wishes to state categorically that it stands by its story as appeared in yesterday's issue, but the education minister has also dug his heels in. I guess it's how it works. So from where you sit, just give me a straightforward answer. That's my only question to you. There's nothing wrong with this loan system proposal as it stands. If you add the other dynamics, you're making mention of scholarships and all of that, as it stands, the loan system should work, right?
Yes, it's the sure way to go, just to ensure parity in the tertiary education front. That is what we need to do. We should have an enhanced loan system. And as I said, not in its current form. If we implement it in its current form, then we defeat the purpose of which we would want to assist students. So these loans should be paid 2 weeks to reopening. Students can access the money, pay for their accommodation, pay for their school fees, buy the little things that they need, and then they go to school. You don't pay these things in the middle of the semester or at the end of the semester. It doesn't help. You end up pushing the students to go and ask for borrow money and do all sorts of things that they are not supposed to do. So it should be in an enhanced form, as the minister has put it, so that it is paid early, it is increased and paid early. And I think that nobody will complain when we start implementing this.
All right. Dr. Anti, we're grateful that you took the time to join us. Time will tell how this is implemented, especially after that committee delivers its work. But that's Dr. Peter Anti. He's Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies. He joined the conversation. Well, stick and stay with us. We'll be back with more action on the AM show.
Mr. Speaker, question. But they were using national security vehicle, and when they were interrogated further, they said that they are coming from ORA. Mr. Speaker, we need to be careful with the. You need to listen, Mr. Speaker. They chased his vehicle all the way to this Parliament House, and when we made inquiries, apparently it was not coming from national security, and those in charge said that they were sent by ORA. Mr. Speaker, national security said these were not their men, but they were using national security vehicle, and when they were interrogated further, they said that they are coming from ORA. Mr. Speaker, we need to be careful which destination we want to drive the vehicle called Ghana to. I am happy that the oral committee is denying. That should tell you that when you set up such a populist body, people take advantage. Two populists, such a populist committee, people take advantage. Scared of what? People take advantage to settle scores. Mr. Speaker, we do not have to wish this for the country. Now, Mr. Speaker, the nominee, Honorable Collins, he is seconding the motion, so just let's tolerate. Honorable Collins, I know why I'm tolerating. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Collins Dauda is a very experienced member of this House. He is recounting his own experience, but he knows. He calls me Miwafase. Mr. Speaker, he knows that some of us who were in government never supported a thing like this. He knows that for a fact. And, Mr. Speaker, senior members of this House know that there are some members of this House who have the conscience of the society we live in and have never supported any actions detrimental to them when they were in opposition. They know. This is not the time to mention names, but they know. Mr. Speaker, if it was bad yesterday, it remains bad today and it will be bad tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, the nominee went further. Mr. Speaker, the nominee went further without being asked. Produced my own documents on my land. He said that in the name of ORA, they had conducted a search. The good news is that in their attempt to find out whether my land in Winneba belonged to the state, they came to a conclusion that it is not a state land. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I had become aware that somebody had petitioned ORA and had said that the police college in Winneba. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues who are shouting, they should know that this became a subject matter of our proceedings. So I am within the ambit of relevance. So please pay attention. somebody had filed a petition to ORA claiming that my land in Winneba is part of state lands, and the chair of ORA, in coming to his vetting, carried a search report. And in that search report, at least he got to know that where my building is in Winneba is not state land and I've not looted. Mr. Speaker, again, it is important for him as chair and all the members of this ORA to know that, Mr. Speaker, the entire Winneba lands are affected by vested assets through an executive instrument. Mr. Speaker, going further, the nominee, Honorable Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, if you look at page 30 of the 103 report, I quote, the nominee promised to furnish the committee with the following upon request by the ranking member with the leave of the chairman. There's a list of documents that he promised to furnish us. The nominee has been able to furnish the committee with a documentation only on the survey and water cleanup companies as at the time of finalizing this report. We just need to put on record that there were 9 documents that he promised to furnish us on his own volition. Mr. Speaker, this we have not received. Mr. Speaker, there are only 2. They brought only, they are still here. The 2 they brought, his company registration, I have it here. Those 2 company registration documents, these are the only 2 that they brought. No, I have captured. Pay attention. I said, no, nominee has been able to furnish the document with only on survey and water cleanup companies. These are the only 2 we have received. Mr. Speaker, we believe that he who comes to equity must do equity. Let the record reflect that this side is not pursuing a member of this house. But, Mr. Speaker, the colleague himself publicly says that he is a public-spirited Ghanaian, and he's on record of always pursuing people and finding out their sources of income, especially the political class. Mr. Speaker, if you are holding people's feet to the fire, Mr. Speaker, I will make this point. If you are holding people's feet to the fire, demanding accountability and transparency, it means that you yourself must demonstrate that when subjected to it, you will, honourable member, please. Mr. Speaker, our colleague Honorable Ablakwa has been taking people on in the public space. He questions people's birth certificates. He questions people's sources of income. He questions people's passports, people's travel. Mr. Speaker, he questions them. If today he lives at airports and provides it on his CV that he lives at the airport and claims that he's a tenant for 8 years, it only stands to reason that he makes available all documents related to the tenancy. We are not pursuing this person. Ablakwa knows that I, Kwame here, will be the last to stand against his political progress. Never. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I will never Those who know me and know me well know me and what I stand for. I am a politician like you. I will not be the one to be pursuing you. I will not. But to the extent that you do not spare your colleagues, Mr. Speaker, especially during the vetting, I found it very strange that Mr. Ablakwa apparently took the car loan of 2021 because it's on record, both on social media and traditional media, questioning the car loan that MPs take. And he's used the word, it was unconscionable. When I asked the question, he said that 2013, he took the car loan, he used it to buy a Land Cruiser. In the second in the second term, that was 2017, he used that one to buy 2 saloon cars, and then the third one, he used that to buy a combine harvester. Mr. Speaker, you and I know that there is no way the clerk to Parliament, upon receiving a letter that a member wants to use his car loan to buy a combine harvester, clerk will not issue a check to a vendor who is selling a combine harvester to a member of Parliament. It is not true, and it can't be possible. He has been pursuing people. He is questioning the integrity of members of Parliament, that it's unconscionable to access car loan. Yet, on all the 3 terms he's been a member of Parliament, he has relied on these facilities. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to say it is hypocritical, but it is also for all of us as a house to realize that we must be measured in the way we pursue each other and one another and others. Today, he is now going into government. I know Mr. Ablakwa as a true gentleman in terms of his dressing. He does, yes, Mr. Speaker, he dresses well. He wears quality things. He wears quality shoe, quality suit, quality tie. He dresses well, and I respect him for that, and he knows. If tomorrow somebody says, colleagues, this is a serious matter. If tomorrow, by mere fact that he's a gentleman, he dresses well, somebody now comes to ask you, how much did you buy your suit? This designer shoe, how much did it cost you? Because, Mr. Speaker, for 8 years, the member says that all he has is his MP salary of 15,000. He says that all he does is his MP work. He has not done other business because the Savvy company, he folded that company up way back in 2015.
Well, interesting reflections there, and we're offering all of those up to you for your reflections. What do you make of these? And of course, the discussion as well on education. Yes, we've been talking ad nauseum, if you like, about our parliamentarians and everything happening. But what are your thoughts for us? Share with us by calling that number 0302 211 691. 0302 211 691. And I guess we should start with assessment. That lovely yellow dress, how much did you buy it for?
Sure.
That brooch, that necklace, that watch, how much did you get it for?
5 CDs.
You know, the tax people, though, if they want to go after people who are likely not paying taxes, if they look at your car, Maserati, this model costs, your salary, 5,000 Ghana cedis. How did you get this? It's interesting. We have our first caller. We have Yao from Latebi Okoshi. Good morning, Yao.
Good morning. Good morning to your listeners. And I think it's quite unfortunate what's happening in Ghana's parliament. For the past couple of weeks, all we hear is Afino Martin talking. I think it's quite embarrassing what happened. And it's unfortunate that the Speaker has decided to suspend his ruling. I think it's a bad example. So we're hoping that with the way our funeral marking is going, NDC is learning that Ghanaians have given them an absolute majority, right? But it's looking like they are the minority. Hopefully, our funeral marking doesn't lead NPP from a micro-minority to a minuscule minority. So it's quite unfortunate, and I hope that things improve in the parliament. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Yao, for sharing your thoughts with us all the way from Latebio Koshi. He thinks Fenyo Markin is being too much.
I think they are just doing their job, you know, as opposition. We can't just say we voted in a new administration, so we should just let them have a holiday and do whatever they want, you know. Sometimes when in fact, I listen to him on the probe, and I think I understand where he's coming from, you know. Someone's got to hold their feet to the fire. Who else, you know, to do that job than them, the minority?
I don't think anyone is disputing that,
yeah.
but then you ask the question, how much is too much?
Yeah. Let's usher in our second caller. Good morning. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hello.
And speak up, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Name?
My name is Anapiti.
Oh, unfortunately, we can't hear you. Could you speak up for us? That's not a good sound to hear. But all that went down in Parliament yesterday, and I just want to refresh your memory while we wait for you to call us in terms of the ministers who've been approved by Parliament so far. We have Dr. Casey Lato-Falston, of course, that was the first batch. John Abdullahi Jinapor, Minister for Energy and Green Transition. Dominic Akutringa Ayene, Attorney General and Minister of Justice. I'll pause here and usher in George from Agboba. George, good morning. You're on the AM show. What's on your mind?
My name is George, as you said. My dear sister, let's all Ghanaians be careful with the attitude of the minority.
Why is that?
Because the minority knows that they have a small number. And for Ghanaians to hear them is making unnecessary noise. When they make that unnecessary noise, attention will come to them. So I'm pleading with the majority to put their feet down. Fair. It's a small majority. Not in numbers.
We seem to be losing you. Can you speak up for us, please?
Hello?
Please go ahead.
So I'm pleading that the new majority leader will stand on his feet and face the people online, and they should always come out with truth. They shouldn't leave making unnecessary accusations on their ministers who have been elected. Thank you, my brother and my sister.
Thank you, George.
Well, thank you for calling. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. You can do same before we wind down in a few minutes. 0302-211-691. If you have any thoughts for us, call that number and we shall be sure to hear you out. All right, we have a caller from the Savannah region. Abdul is on the line. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Please turn down the volume on your set. Listen to me on the phone. What are your thoughts for us? Hello, Abdul? Abdul, let's try this one last time. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, go ahead with your thoughts for us, please.
Yes, good morning to you and good morning to your viewers out there. This is Abdul Ghani Mankarho from Savannah region. The issue of our teachers training allowances and nurses allowances. You see, it's not the matter of cancellation of the allowances. But it is the matter of what did you promise them for? Have you promised them you will continue giving them the allowances if they voted for you or if they give you the mandate to lead us in this country? Or what is the stand of NDC today? Were they promising them they will continue if they give them the mandate? Or were they promising them that if they give them the mandate, they will cancel the free senior high school? If you look at it two ways, if they told the whole public that they will cancel it, we don't have problem. But if during the election or campaign, when they were campaigning, they promised them that if they give them the mandate, they will maintain and continue giving them the allowances. I think it's very bad to disappoint the students. But having said that, you see the style of the minority in parliament, I'm telling you, it's going to make the people of this country very happy, because NDC cannot hide anything within their government. Minority leader Alexander Michael will expose them, and the minority in parliament will expose them. We are very, because why will you say that you are a person who is not corrupt, and they ask you, where are you living? You say Airport Hill. Is it for you or you rent? You say it's for rented. Today, bring the documents that is for rented. You can't bring it. You can't bring it. What is that? So we are always telling the people of this country that what we are going to do, they should make sure that we focus on what is going on in this country. When John Dramani Mahama as president, he's moving around, we are watching them closely. They can't do anything bad against this country, because we will expose the bad governance of John Dramani Mahama as president. So they should just calm down. They shouldn't be saying that minority leader is talking too much. That is the work of minority. We don't have any work. We will continue to make the noise. The people of this country must hear the voice of minority, especially the leader of the minority side, Alexander.
Thank you very much. We have to move on to other callers as well. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. You must continue with the noise, you said, and that's your work, you said. Well, thank you very much for calling and sharing your thoughts. Let's see whether we can... Well, he did say that himself, that that's the work of the minority, and that they may... I don't think he's speaking for the members of parliament, because they will not subscribe to making noise for the sake of making a noise. But I think his point is made. We may have the time to sneak in one last caller, 0302-211-691. What are your thoughts? If you're minded to do so, you can call, and then we shall get it through. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Aboko from Garu in the Upper East region.
You're our final caller. Briefly, what are your thoughts?
Well, for me personally, I think Afenyo Makin is a very true gentleman. Look at the way he approached the issues. He's not using abusive words or insultive words. So I don't know where this thing of he's making noise and all that is coming from. And it is this saying that he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. So if you seek to, investigate people and you are not clean yourself, where lies your good morals for fighting corruption or whatsoever you are trying to do? He must also be interrogated. A black one.
Right.
So we should just allow the minority to do their work. We should not be saying all manner of things that really doesn't help this country. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you for calling, and that's how we're going to cap it off. Of course, we have to give way to the news desk crew, but it's been another exciting morning. You make us, how would I put it? We are because you are, right? And when we come here, it's because of you we come and do this. So we're grateful to you for joining us for another installment of the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo.
And I'm Sweetie Abochi. We'll see you again tomorrow. But stay for Joy News Desk with Faustina Safo. It's bye for now. Mwah.